Hello everyone. Before we begin our long, quiet journey through the ancient myths of Greek mythology, I have a small question for you. Where are you listening from right now? And what time is it there? I always find it fascinating to know who's drifting off to sleep from across the world, wrapped in blankets, headphones on, eyes heavy, letting history carry them softly into dreams. Now, I want you to take a slow breath and imagine you're standing on a shore. Not just any shore. This one is ancient. The sea ahead is the Aegean. The waves are gentle, but endless. And behind you is Greece. Not the Greece you know from pictures or postcards, but an older one. One that lived before time had a number. A place where gods walked beside men, and monsters might rise from the hills if they heard a name they didn't like. This is where it begins. But not with Zeus, or even with Cronus. No, we must go further back than that. Back to when there was nothing. The Greeks didn't believe the world began with light, or a god, or a word. No, they believed it began with chaos. Not chaos like noise or confusion, but chaos with a capital C. A deep, yawning void. Infinite, silent, and shapeless. It didn't roar. It didn't burn. It simply was. And from that darkness, things began to appear. Not all at once. Slowly, as if even the void had to remember how to create. First came Gaia, the earth. She wasn't born like a baby or carved like a statue. She emerged, a vast, eternal being as ancient as the stones, with skin like fertile soil and bones like deep mountains. She gave shape to the world itself, cliffs, valleys, caves, rivers, and roots. Gaia was not just land, she was land. Next came Tartarus, the abyss beneath the abyss. If Gaia was the earth beneath your feet, Tartarus was the echo beneath her. A dark, heavy realm. The Greeks feared it more than death itself. It was where the worst things were kept. Not just the monsters, but ideas too terrible to name. Tartarus was not just a place. It was a prison before prisons were made. And then came Eros. Not the winged Cupid of later stories, but something older. Primordial desire. Eros wasn't about kissing or romance. He was the force that pulled things together. The need to unite. The reason sky would long for earth. The reason one being would reach out to another. Eros gave the universe its heartbeat. And then came night. Nyx. Dark-haired and eternal, she didn't walk, she swept. With her came shadows, silence, secrets. She birthed things like sleep and death, doom and dreams, misery and revenge. And yet, she was beautiful. Terrifying, but beautiful. Even Zeus would one day fear her. Day followed night. Hemera. Light crept behind shadow. And above all this, Gaia gave birth to Uranus, the sky. Now imagine this, earth and sky, lovers. Not metaphorical ones. Literal. Gaia and Uranus embraced. He wrapped around her like a dome, a ceiling of stars, and their union brought life. They gave birth to creatures. Many, many creatures. The first were the Titans, tall, strong, and timeless. Oceanus, who encircled the world like a river. Hyperion, who glowed with the heat of the sun. Thea, gleaming with the light of precious gems. Mnemosyne, the memory of all things. Cronus, the youngest, the sharpest, the one who waited. But there were others too. Not all were beautiful. Gaia bore the Centimans, 100 arms each and 50 heads, towering and monstrous. She bore the Cyclopes, one-eyed giants who could forge lightning and thunder in their hands. Uranus saw them and was afraid. He didn't love these children. He stuffed them back into Gaia's belly, deep inside her, in the dark, where even light couldn't find them. Imagine Gaia, aching, full of life, full of sons who couldn't breathe, whose fingers clawed the inside of mountains. And still, Uranus smiled above, unbothered. Right. Gaia began to hate him. One night, she whispered to her sons, the Titans. She gave them a blade, a sickle of sharpest stone, and asked, "Who will free your brothers? Who among you is brave enough to strike down the sky?" The Titans were silent. They looked to one another. Only one stepped forward. Cronus thought he took the blade and waited. And when Uranus came to lie with Gaia again, Cronus leapt from the shadows, not with a shout, but with quiet fury. He castrated his father, severing the sky from the earth. The blood fell like rain. Some drops hit the ground, and from them rose the Erinyes, the Furies, winged spirits of vengeance. Others hit the sea, and the foam churned, and from that foam came something new, a goddess, one more beautiful than any before. Her name was Aphrodite. But that, dear listener, is a tale for later. For now, let's follow Cronus, new ruler of the world. He freed his siblings. He claimed the heavens for himself. And Gaia was quiet. For a time, Cronus ruled with his sister Rhea. Together, they had children of their own. But Cronus was not a kind king. He remembered the prophecy Gaia whispered once, that he too would be overthrown by his own child. So, each time Rhea gave birth, Cronus swallowed the baby whole. One by one, the gods disappeared down his throat. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. But the sixth child, Rhea hid him, wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes, and gave that to Cronus instead. The real child was hidden far away on the island of Crete in a cave, with the sound of drums and goat-skin shields banging to hide his cries. That child's name was Zeus, and that's where we'll go next. The infant Zeus, hidden beneath the slopes of Mount Ida on the island of Crete, was raised in secret, far from the eyes of his father, Cronus. Around his cave stood the Curetes, armored warriors who clashed their shields and stomped their feet, drowning out his infant cries with rhythm and noise. So Cronus would never know his son lived. He was nursed by a goat named Amalthea, and when she died, her horn, the cornucopia, became a symbol of endless nourishment and abundance. Even in infancy, Zeus was surrounded by signs of his fate. Destiny, in Greek myth, wasn't just something whispered in back rooms. It was loud, insistent, woven into everything. Years passed. Zeus grew tall, strong, clever. He learned from the earth, the stars, the winds. He spoke to nymphs and dryads, to mountain spirits and beasts. But most of all, he listened to the silence left by his siblings, swallowed into oblivion. He did not forget. One day, disguised as a cupbearer, he approached Cronus, now older but no less tyrannical. He served him a special potion, not with hatred, but with strategy. The drink churned in Cronus' gut, and suddenly, violently, he vomited, first the stone, then his children, one by one, fully grown and furious. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon spilled out into the world like gods returning from the grave. And so began the war. 10 years it raged, the Titanomachy. A battle not between men, but between titans and gods, sky and sky, mountain and mountain. On one side, Cronus and his brothers, the ancient titans. On the other, Zeus, his siblings, and the promise of a new order. They did not fight alone. Gaia, once again, took sides. She whispered secrets to Zeus. To go to Tartarus and free the 100-handed giants, the Centimanes, and the Cyclopes, who still screamed silently in the belly of the earth. Zeus did, and in return, they gifted him weapons. To Zeus, they gave the thunderbolt, sharp and burning, the voice of the storm. To Poseidon, the trident, to shatter earth and stir seas. To Hades, a helm of invisibility, to walk unseen in war and in shadow. Armed with these, The gods pushed the Titans back. The earth groaned. The sky split. And finally, Zeus struck down Cronus with a bolt so loud it cracked the history of the world in two. The Titans were defeated. Some, like Prometheus and Epimetheus, were spared. But others, the most dangerous, were chained in Tartarus, bound in dark, guarded forever by the hundred-handed ones. Now, the cosmos needed structure. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades drew lots. Zeus won the sky. Poseidon claimed the sea. And Hades, without complaint, accepted the underworld. It is said they stood on a cliff when they decided this, watching the world below. The land was raw, filled with ash and stone, but also with possibility. Zeus built his palace atop Mount Olympus, high above mortals, where the clouds touch the peaks and the winds obey no laws but his. From there, he would rule, not just with strength, but with strategy. The Olympians were born. Hera, his sister, became his queen, goddess of marriage, loyalty, and vengeance. Demeter shaped the seasons. Hestia tended the eternal flame of home. Poseidon crafted seas and storms. Hades withdrew beneath the surface to build his silent kingdom. But Zeus was not finished. He began to shape the world below, not with tools, but with choices. He created humans, or perhaps, depending on the version, watched as Prometheus did. Prometheus, the titan who had sided with the gods, was clever. Too clever. He saw that mortals were fragile, bone, blood, breath. So he stole fire from Olympus and gifted it to them. Fire was more than warmth. It was thought. It was future. It was danger. Zeus was furious, not because humans had fire, but because they had too much. They burned too brightly. They forgot their place. So Zeus punished Prometheus. He was chained to a cliff in the Caucasus Mountains. Each day, an eagle came to feast on his liver. Each night it grew back. Eternal pain for a single theft. But Prometheus never begged. That's what made it worse. Meanwhile, Zeus decided humans needed humility. He created Pandora, the first woman. Beautiful, curious, irresistible. She was given to Epimetheus, Prometheus's brother, as a gift. With her, she carried a jar, often mistranslated as a box. She was told not to open it. But she did. And from it flew all the evils of the world: disease, sorrow, jealousy, greed, madness, war. She slammed the lid shut, but only one thing remained inside: hope. Whether it stayed trapped or lingered for later, the Greeks never fully agreed. And this, listener, is how the world of men began. Not with a garden, but with war, trickery, and fire. With gods who loved too harshly and punished too quickly. With a world watched by thunder. But it was only the beginning. Because above Olympus, among marble halls and golden thrones, more gods were born, and not all would remain loyal. The halls of Olympus echoed with laughter, with wine, with arguments that could shatter mountains. The gods were not silent watchers. They lived as rulers, but also as children of chaos, always hungry, always entangled in stories larger than themselves. Zeus sat on a throne of storm clothes. His word was law, his temper quicksilver. He was not just king, he was the balance between order and wildness. And yet, he strayed constantly. From Hera, from vows, from peace. Their marriage was not one of love songs and roses. It was one of power, jealousy, and cold games played over centuries. Hera, sharp-eyed and proud, watched his every move. She knew of Io, the priestess Zeus seduced and then turned into a cow to hide her. Hera took Io under her protection and chained her with a gadfly that stung without mercy. She knew of Semele, the mortal woman who asked to see Zeus in his true form. He revealed himself, and she burned to ash. But her unborn child, Dionysus, would survive. And then there was Leda, disguised as a swan. Europa, approached as a bull. Danae, visited as golden rain. Zeus changed shape often, not because he had to, but because gods could not always be understood as simply as desire or force. There once been nature itself. From these unions came heroes and legends. Perseus, slayer of Medusa. Heracles, the strong one, doomed to suffer. Helen, whose face would launch 1,000 ships. And so, the line between God and man blurred. But not all Olympians followed Zeus' example. Athena, born not from love, but from the mind. Literally. It began with a headache. Zeus gripped his skull, and it split. From it sprang Athena, fully grown, armored, eyes blazing with thought. She was wisdom in war, logic and law. She never married. She never strayed. Athena was a goddess of cities, of olive trees, of calm power. And yet she could be ruthless. In one legend, a woman named Arachne dared to weave better than the goddess. She did. Her tapestries were perfect, filled with scenes of the gods' flaws and betrayals. Athena didn't argue. She turned Arachne into a spider to weave forever. Then there was Apollo, son of Zeus and Leto, twin brother to Artemis, born beneath a palm tree on Delos, surrounded by divine winds. Apollo was music, poetry, the sun. He could charm mountains into movement, but also bring plague with a whisper. He carried a silver bow and sang truths that stung. And Artemis, his twin, ran wild through forests, the huntress, the untouched. She danced with nymphs beneath moonlight. She swore never to marry. Once, a man named Actaeon saw her bathing. She turned him into a stag. His own hounds tore him apart. The gods were not fair. They were eternal children with enormous power. Ares, the god of war, thrived on blood and chaos. He was hated even by his fellow gods, rash, violent, boastful. And yet, he was desired. He lay with Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, in secret. Their affair was discovered by Hephaestus, her husband, the lame god of fire and forge. He built a net so fine it was invisible, cast it over their bed, and caught them mid-embrace. He called the gods to witness their shame. Some laughed, others turned away. But the stories never stopped. Aphrodite, born from sea foam and the severed sky, was not just beauty. She was longing. She was destruction. She could make kings fall, sailors crash, gods weep. And beneath them all, in the depths where light forgets its name, ruled Hades. Hades was not evil. He did not cause death, he received it. His kingdom was of shadows, of souls. The river Styx, cold and black, encircled it like a barrier of memory. The dead crossed with Charon, the ferryman, who asked for a coin. Those without were left to wander forever. Cerberus, the three-headed dog, guarded the gates. But even here, love crept in. Hades saw Persephone, daughter of Demeter, and wanted her as his queen. So he opened the earth and took her. Demeter wept, and with her grief came famine. Fields died. Livestock starved. Mortals cried to the sky. Zeus intervened. A compromise. Persephone would return, but because she had eaten 6 seeds of a pomegranate in the underworld, she would spend 6 months with Hades, 6 above with her mother. Thus began the seasons. Spring, when Persephone returned. Winter, when she left. Greek myths were not only about gods. They were explanations. For change. For nature. For suffering. For joy. And as humans built temples and made sacrifices, the gods watched. Sometimes they helped. Sometimes they didn't. But always, they were there, watching from marble thrones, jealous of each other, curious about mankind. Soon, mankind would rise in the stories. With kings who challenged gods, heroes who defied death, and monsters that hid in caves beneath the earth. The age of men had begun. But the gods were not finished. Now the world had formed. Gods ruled from the peaks, men toiled below, and the myths that tied them together thickened like vines around stone. But humans began to dream bigger. They no longer looked only to the skies for guidance. They wanted stories. They wanted heroes. And so, the age of heroes began, not just the children of gods, but mortals with purpose. And their tales became the songs, the poems, the fireside legends that would survive longer than any statue. One of the first was Perseus, born of Danae, who had been imprisoned in a bronze chamber beneath the earth by her father, a king obsessed with a prophecy that his daughter's child would kill him. Zeus, ever unpredictable, visited Danae not as man or beast, but as a shower of golden light. From that shimmer, Perseus was born. He was raised in exile, tested early, and then came the task, not a challenge, but a trap. Polydectes, a king with ill intentions, sent Perseus to fetch the head of Medusa, the Gorgon. One glance from her would turn flesh to stone. Her hair writhed with living snakes. She slept surrounded by petrified warriors, forever still, their last expressions frozen in fear. But Perseus was not alone. Athena lent him a mirrored shield. Hermes gave him winged sandals and a curved blade. The nymphs offered a helmet of invisibility and a magical bag. He didn't face Medusa with brute strength, but with reflection. He crept upon her, used the shield to see her without looking directly. With a single slash, her head fell, and from her blood sprang Pegasus, the winged horse. But even decapitated, Medusa's power remained, her gaze still deadly. Perseus used it wisely, turning his enemies into stone. One by one. Eventually, he would return to the land of his mother. He would defeat Polydectes. And, in a twist older than irony, he would later kill his grandfather by accident during a game of discus. The prophecy fulfilled. Then came Heracles. Stronger than 10 men, but haunted from birth. Born to Alcmene and Zeus, his birth enraged Hera. She sent serpents to his cradle. Infant Heracles strangled them both. But her hatred didn't end. She drove him mad, and in that madness, he did the unthinkable. He killed his wife and children. When his mind returned, so did the guilt. Crushing, unrelenting. To atone, he sought out the oracle at Delphi, and she commanded, "Serve King Eurystheus. Complete the 12 labors." And so began his punishment. Not one that weakened him, but one that defied him. He slew the Nemean lion, its hide impenetrable. He used its own claws to skin it, wearing the fur forever after. He faced the Hydra, a beast with 9 heads. When one was cut, 2 more grew. With his nephew's help, he cauterized the stumps, ending the cycle. He captured the golden hind of Artemis, the Erymanthian boar. He cleaned the Augean stables in a single day by rerouting rivers. He drove away the Stymphalian birds, fetched the Cretan bull, and stole the man-eating horses of Diomedes. He traveled far for the belt of the Amazon queen, for the cattle of Geryon. He tricked Atlas into retrieving the golden apples of the Hesperides. And finally, he descended into the underworld itself and brought back Cerberus, not by force, but through courage. These were not just tales of strength. They were journeys inward. Each labor a battle with a part of himself, rage, guilt, pride, fear. And yet, even after his labors, Heracles continued to suffer. Betrayed, poisoned, broken. When he finally died, his mortal form burned, but his spirit rose. He became a god, and in Olympus he found peace, perhaps for the first time. Then came Theseus. Athens needed a hero, and Theseus answered. He volunteered to sail to Crete, where the monstrous Minotaur, half man, half bull, waited in the twisting labyrinth. This creature was the shame of King Minos, born from a curse, hidden in a maze no one escaped. Ariadne, the king's daughter, loved Theseus. She gave him a thread, simple, delicate, to retrace his steps. Theseus slew the Minotaur and found his way back by that thread. But he left Ariadne behind. He returned to Athens, but forgot to change his sails from black to white. His father, King Aegeus, saw the dark sails from afar and believed his son dead. Grief-stricken, he threw himself into the sea, and that sea still bears his name, the Aegean. Heroism in Greek myth was never clean. It came with tragedy, with mistakes, with blood, because the gods demanded balance. And no man, no matter how brave, escaped consequence. Then came Jason and the Argonauts, a quest for the Golden Fleece, a ship full of heroes, including Heracles, Orpheus, and many more. They faced harpies, clashing rocks, fire-breathing bulls. But Jason's success came from Medea, a sorceress who loved him, betrayed her family for him, and suffered because of it. She gave him everything, and when he left her, she took everything back. The Greeks did not tell stories with clean endings. They told stories that reminded you, even the strongest hands could drop the sword. Even the brightest love could turn to ash. And in every myth, somewhere, behind the mountain or hidden in a tree, a god watched. The world of mortals spun onward, and though the gods remained high above on Olympus, they rarely stayed silent. They whispered into the winds, meddled in battles, lit passions in hearts and storms across seas. But even as they shaped mortal lives, a strange thing began to happen. Humans began to change the gods, too. Stories multiplied, versions shifted. One myth birthed another, like vines twisting into branches. The line between history and myth blurred until it no longer mattered. What was told became what was believed, and belief, in the ancient world, was as real as stone. Nowhere did this blur shine brighter than in the Trojan War. Not just a war of spears and siege engines, but a war built on beauty, on a single face. Helen of Sparta, the daughter of Zeus and Leda, born not from a womb, but from an egg. She was said to be the most beautiful woman in the world, the kind of beauty that bid fate. When she came of age, kings from across Greece came to win her hand. To prevent war, her mortal father made each suitor swear an oath to accept Helen's choice and to defend that marriage, no matter what. She chose Menelaus, brother to Agamemnon, and became queen of Sparta. But far away, in the shining halls of Troy, a prince named Paris was being drawn into a game far older than himself. It began with a golden apple. At the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, a mortal and a sea goddess, all the gods were invited, except Eris, the goddess of discord. Insulted, Eris arrived anyway and threw a golden apple into the crowd. On it were 3 words: "To the fairest." Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite claimed it. To settle the matter, they chose Paris to judge. Each goddess offered him a gift. Hera promised power, kingship over all men. Athena offered wisdom, unmatched skill in war and thought. Aphrodite whispered of love, and promised him the most beautiful woman alive. Paris chose Aphrodite, and in doing so, doomed Troy. With Aphrodite's help, he sailed to Sparta and took Helen away. Whether by love or by force, the stories vary. But the result was the same. 1,000 ships launched. The Greeks assembled under Agamemnon, with Achilles, Odysseus, Ajax, and other great names. They sailed to Troy and laid siege for 10 years. It was not just a war of men. The gods took sides. Hera and Athena, bitter from the apple, fought for the Greeks. Aphrodite protected Paris. Apollo lent his arrows to Troy. Zeus tried to remain neutral. But even he could not ignore the pull of destiny. Achilles, the greatest Greek warrior, fought like fire. His mother, Thetis, had dipped him in the river Styx as a baby, making him invulnerable, except at his heel, where she held him. He killed Hector, Troy's greatest champion, and dragged his body around the walls in fury. But Achilles too would fall, struck by an arrow to the heel, guided by Apollo, shot by Paris. And when the war could not be won by force, it was won by trickery. Odysseus, clever, patient, always watching, proposed a gift. A wooden horse, massive, hollow. The Greeks pretended to leave, sailing away beyond the horizon. Trojans pulled the horse inside their walls as a trophy. But inside were soldiers. That night, the Greeks returned. The soldiers emerged. The gates opened. Troy burned. Helen returned to Sparta. And yet, the story didn't end, because the war cursed everyone who touched it. Agamemnon returned home only to be murdered in his bath by his wife, Clytemnestra. Odysseus wandered for 10 long years across seas and islands, facing cyclopes, sirens, and angry gods. Aeneas, a Trojan prince, fled the ashes of his city and began a journey that would one day lead to Rome. The Greeks understood. No one escapes war untouched, not even victors, especially not victors. And the gods? They returned to Olympus. They laughed. They quarreled. They mourned the dead only when it suited them. But in some stories, even gods began to fade. For every time a human chose reason over ritual, every time a story was told slightly differently, the gods changed, and power slowly shifted, not lost, but diluted. Yet their stories remained, and in the cracks of every city, in the curve of every coastline, you could still feel them, like the echo of thunder long after the lightning has passed. By the time midnight blanketed the village, most homes were quiet, except for the occasional bark of a dog or the distant toll of a bell marking the canonical hour of matins. But for those who adhered to monastic traditions or lived near an abbey, this time was sacred. The dark hours between midnight and dawn were reserved for quiet prayer, contemplation, or, for the more devout, rising briefly to attend night services. The belief that nighttime was spiritually potent wasn't just a monastic idea. Many villagers believed that dreams occurring in the pre-dawn hours carried prophetic meaning. This led to a culture of retelling dreams at breakfast, trying to decipher omens in the images that danced in their minds while the world slept. Interestingly, the deepest sleep was often achieved not in the first phase of night, but during what we might now call the second sleep. After the quiet wakefulness that occurred in the middle of the night, returning to bed often brought on vivid, almost lucid dreams. People would talk of visiting otherworldly realms or speaking to saints in dreams that felt as real as waking life. These dreams weren't dismissed as fantasy. Instead, they were woven into the tapestry of daily life. A woman dreaming of fish might see it as a sign of fertility. A farmer dreaming of wolves might consult the local priest for guidance. Dreams were not merely the mind's wandering. They were messages to be heard, interpreted, and sometimes acted upon. In this way, the medieval night wasn't simply a time to rest the body. It was a period where the soul, untethered by labor or obligation, could wander freely, connect with the divine, or uncover hidden truths. The villagers may not have had clocks or electric lights, but in the darkness, they found a rhythm that nurtured both body and spirit. As the world settled into its cycles of divine conflicts and mortal struggles, a new age dawned in the mythic past of Greece, the age of heroes. This era bridged the gap between gods and mortals, as children born of divine and human unions walked among mankind. These demigods were often blessed with incredible strength, unmatched courage, and destinies guided by fate. Their stories filled the songs of bards and the scrolls of ancient poets. Perhaps the most emblematic of these figures was Heracles, known to the Romans as Hercules. Born of Zeus and the mortal woman Alcmene, Heracles was destined for greatness, yet his path was marked by suffering. Hera, ever envious of Zeus's affairs, despised the child and sent 2 serpents into his cradle. The infant, already strong, strangled them effortlessly. Later, in a divine-induced madness, Heracles killed his own wife and children. To atone, he undertook the 12 labors, seemingly impossible tasks that included slaying the Nemean lion, capturing the golden hind, cleaning the Augean stables, and retrieving the 3-headed guard dog Cerberus from Hades itself. But Heracles was not alone in fame. Perseus, another son of Zeus, was born to Danae and destined to slay the Gorgon Medusa. With help from Athena and Hermes, he received gifts: winged sandals, a reflective shield, a magical satchel, and a sword. These allowed him to decapitate Medusa without ever looking directly at her face. Later, he would save Andromeda from a sea monster and found the city of Mycenae, which would one day be a center of power in Greek myth. Then came Theseus, prince of Athens, born of both mortal and possibly divine lineage, depending on the telling. His most famous deed was navigating the labyrinth on the island of Crete and slaying the monstrous Minotaur. Guided by the threat of Ariadne, whom he abandoned after his success, Theseus symbolized cleverness as much as strength. He later became king of Athens and brought reforms to unify the Attic region. Jason, leader of the Argonauts, sought the Golden Fleece to reclaim his throne. Aboard the ship Argo, he sailed with many heroes, including Heracles, Orpheus, and Atalanta, facing harpies, clashing rocks, and other challenges. With the help of the sorceress Medea, Jason succeeded, only to later betray her, leading to a tragic downfall that rippled through generations. Each of these figures represented human virtues and flaws, reflecting what it meant to struggle, strive, and fall. Their stories were told around campfires and temple steps, whispered into the minds of children and philosophers alike. The Age of Heroes would ultimately culminate in the most famous conflict of them all, a war sparked by love, pride, and fate. Soon, the stage would be set for the Trojan War. Among the many tales woven into Greek mythology, none is more epic or tragic than the story of the Trojan War. This conflict, born from a mixture of divine quarrels and human passion, forever shaped the mythic landscape. The war's root was a golden apple, not a fruit of harvest, but a symbol of discord. At the wedding feast of Peleus and Thetis, all gods were invited, but Eris, the goddess of strife, was snubbed. Angered, she tossed a golden apple inscribed, "To the fairest," among the guests. 3 goddesses claimed it: Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. To settle the dispute, Paris, Prince of Troy, was chosen to judge who deserved the prize. Each goddess promised him a gift. Hera offered power over kings, Athena offered wisdom and skill in war, and Aphrodite promised the love of the most beautiful mortal woman, Helen of Sparta. Paris chose Aphrodite, sealing his fate and that of Troy. With her aid, he took Helen from her husband Menelaus, sparking the fury of the Greek world. 1,000 ships sailed from across Greece, commanded by legendary heroes like Achilles, Odysseus, and Agamemnon. For 10 long years, they besieged Troy, the city protected by massive walls and fierce defenders. The gods, ever involved, took sides. Hera and Athena supported the Greeks, bitter over Paris' judgment. Aphrodite protected the Trojans, especially Paris and his beloved Helen. Apollo sent plagues against the Greeks, and Zeus balanced the scales. The war was marked by heroic duels and tragic losses. Achilles, nearly invincible, fought with unmatched fury, but was eventually slain by an arrow to his vulnerable heel. Hector, noble prince of Troy, fell in combat against Achilles, but was mourned by his people as a hero. When victory seemed impossible, cunning prevailed. Odysseus proposed the stratagem of the wooden horse, a hollow giant left as a supposed offering. The Trojans brought it inside their walls, unaware it concealed warriors, who opened the gates to the Greek army at night. Troy fell. Its flames consumed the city, scattering survivors and reshaping destinies. The war's aftermath was filled with sorrow, betrayal, and wandering. Agamemnon returned home only to be murdered by his wife, Clytemnestra, in revenge. Odysseus embarked on a decade-long voyage fraught with monsters and divine wrath. Aeneas, a Trojan hero, escaped to found what would become Rome. The Trojan War, then, was not just a tale of combat, but of fate's cruelty and the gods' indifference. Yet, the stories continued, because mythology is never simply about the past. It is about understanding ourselves, our fears, hopes, and the eternal struggle between chaos and order. As the dust of Troy settled, the world of gods and mortals began to shift once more. The age of heroes was fading, but its echoes remained, shaping stories and beliefs for centuries. Among those stories, the wanderings of Odysseus stand as a testament to human endurance, cunning, and the divine's complicated involvement in mortal affairs. Odysseus, king of Ithaca, was not the strongest or the boldest of heroes. Instead, he was known for his cleverness and guile. His mind was a labyrinth of schemes, his tongue sharp and silver. The tale of his return home after Troy, chronicled in the epic poem known as the Odyssey, spans 10 years of trials, temptations, and terrible losses. His journey began with the wrath of Poseidon. Angry that Odysseus blinded his son, the Cyclops Polyphemus, the sea god cursed him to wander the oceans, his ship battered and crew dwindling. Along the way, Odysseus encountered enchantresses who turned his men into swine, seductive sirens whose songs lured sailors to their doom, and the dead themselves, summoned in the underworld to offer grim advice. Each challenge tested his wit and will. He outsmarted Circe, escaped the clutches of the deadly Scylla and Charybdis, and resisted the temptation of the Lotus Eaters, who would have stolen his memory and purpose. His men, however, were less fortunate, succumbing to hunger, greed, and the caprices of the gods. Meanwhile, back in Ithaca, his wife Penelope wove a tapestry of patience and hope. She'd promised to choose a suitor when she finished weaving, but unraveled her work each night to delay decision. Their son Telemachus grew into a young man, seeking news of his father and defending his mother's honor against persistent nobles. Odysseus' eventual return was bittersweet. Disguised as a beggar, he assessed the ruin of his home before revealing himself. With the help of Telemachus and a few loyal servants, he reclaimed his kingdom, defeating the suitors in a bloody confrontation. This story embodies themes beyond adventure, loyalty, identity, and the long, winding road toward home and self. Parallel to these mortal sagas, the gods continued their dramas. New figures emerged, like Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, and madness. Born from Zeus and the mortal Semele, Dionysus was a god of paradoxes, life and death, joy and sorrow, civilization and wildness. His followers danced in frenzied rites, seeking communion with the divine through loss of self. The Olympians' influence persisted in the rituals, festivals, and daily lives of Greeks. They were not distant myths, but living presences in every harvest, storm, and marriage. And so, the story of Greek mythology weaves together creation and destruction, love and war, gods and men, an endless tapestry reflecting the human experience itself. As the age of heroes passed, the tapestry of Greek mythology grew richer with stories explaining the world's mysteries, human nature, and the interplay between fate and free will. One profound aspect was how the ancient Greeks understood the human soul, the afterlife, and the sacred rites that linked them to the divine. The underworld, ruled by Hades and his queen Persephone, was not merely a place of shadows, but a complex realm with distinct regions. The fields of asphodel were for ordinary souls, neither virtuous nor wicked, wandering in a muted existence. The Elysian fields, in contrast, offered eternal bliss to heroes and the righteous, an idyllic paradise where music, peace, and light reigned. And then there was Tartarus, a deep abyss where the wicked and rebellious were punished, chained in darkness. The journey of the soul to the underworld was fraught with symbolism. Upon death, the shade would find Charon, the grim ferryman who demanded an obol, a coin placed in the mouth of the deceased, as fare. Without it, the soul was condemned to wander the shores. Cerberus, the three-headed dog, guarded the gates, ensuring none escaped. Many myths illustrate journeys to the underworld, emphasizing courage and sacrifice. Orpheus, the legendary musician, ventured below to retrieve his lost wife Eurydice. His music softened the hearts of Hades and Persephone, granting him permission to lead her back, on one condition, not to look back until they reached the surface. Yet, doubt overcame him, and a single backward glance doomed Eurydice forever. Another story tells of Heracles' 12th labor, capturing Cerberus himself, a feat requiring immense strength and resolve. Beyond death, mystery cults such as those of Demeter and Dionysus offered initiates hope for a blessed afterlife and intimate communion with the divine. The Eleusinian mysteries, for instance, celebrated Demeter's grief and reunion with Persephone, promising eternal life to those who participated. These rites reflected a broader Greek perspective. Life and death were intertwined cycles, bound by the gods but open to human interpretation and ritual. Meanwhile, the everyday lives of Greeks echoed the divine. Festivals like the Olympic Games honored Zeus, drawing city-states together in competitive celebration. Theatrical performances retold myths, blending entertainment with moral reflection. At home, daily prayers and offerings maintained bonds with household gods and ancestors. Even the humblest villager felt the gods' presence. In the harvest, the hearth, the unpredictable sea. This seamless blend of mortal and divine, story and ritual, created a world where mythology was not distant history but a living, breathing force shaping all aspects of existence. The myths endured because they answered the deepest questions. Why do we suffer? What is justice? How do we find meaning? And as we continue through these stories, we glimpse not just ancient beliefs, but the roots of our own humanity. The intricate web of Greek mythology is not solely a chronicle of gods and heroes, but also a reflection of ancient society's values, fears, and daily experiences. Beyond the epic battles and divine intrigues, the lives of ordinary people were deeply entwined with myth. Daily life in ancient Greece revolved around agriculture, family, and community rituals, all imbued with sacred significance. The planting of crops was not merely a practical task, but a sacred act connected to Demeter, goddess of the harvest. Farmers offered prayers and sacrifices to ensure fertile soil and abundant yields, knowing that their survival depended on the favor of the gods. Meals were communal events, often accompanied by hymns and libations poured to the gods. Bread, olives, wine, and cheese formed the staples of the Greek diet. Feasts celebrated both earthly bounty and divine generosity, reinforcing bonds among people and between mortals and deities. Entertainment and art flourished as expressions of devotion and cultural identity. Theater performances retold mythic tales, exploring themes of fate, justice, and human nature. Music and poetry honored gods like Apollo and the Muses, inspiring creativity and contemplation. Women, though often confined to domestic roles, participated in religious festivals and mysteries, wielding spiritual influence and preserving oral traditions. Priestesses served as intermediaries between gods and people, guiding rituals that sustained the community's harmony. Beyond social life, natural phenomena were explained through myth. Thunder was the voice of Zeus, earthquakes, the wrath of Poseidon. The cycles of the seasons reflected Persephone's descent and return, linking human experience to divine narratives. Such stories provided comfort and order in a world often harsh and unpredictable. They offered meaning to suffering and hope amidst uncertainty. In essence, Greek mythology was a living framework, guiding individuals through birth, marriage, conflict, and death. It was both a mirror and a map, a way to understand the self and the cosmos. As these myths passed through generations, they evolved, absorbing new influences and inspiring countless works of art, philosophy, and literature. Their resonance endures because they speak to universal truths: the quest for identity, the struggle with fate, the yearning for connection. As the world of gods, heroes, and mortals intertwined, one truth became clear: Greek mythology was not static, but a dynamic tapestry, ever growing, shifting, and adapting. These stories echoed across centuries, shaping the culture and thought of the ancient world and beyond. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle grappled with these myths, sometimes seeing them as allegories, sometimes as divine truths. Poets like Homer and Hesiod preserved the earliest narratives, but countless voices contributed, adding layers of interpretation and local variation. Festivals such as the Dionysia celebrated the god of wine and theater, where plays explored human nature's complexities, often rooted in mythic themes. The Olympic Games honored Zeus, blending athleticism with religious reverence. Artisans carved gods and heroes in marble, painted scenes on pottery, and composed hymns. Each artifact was a testament to the myth's vitality and the people's desire to connect with forces greater than themselves. The myths explained not only origins and gods, but also morality. They warned against hubris, excessive pride, and showed the consequences of disrespecting the divine or natural order. Tragedies like those of Oedipus and Antigone explored fate, free will, and justice, inviting reflection on human limitations. Even as Rome rose and Greek myths mingled with Roman counterparts, their essence endured. They influenced Renaissance art, modern literature, psychology, and popular culture. Today, these stories remind us of humanity's timeless quest to understand existence, to find meaning in chaos, to face fears with courage, and to dream beyond the visible. Through gods who loved and betrayed, heroes who triumphed and faltered, and mortals caught between destiny and choice, Greek mythology lives on, as a mirror reflecting our deepest hopes and fears. As the myths unfolded, the gods often interacted not just with kings and heroes, but with the common folk, farmers, artisans, and sailors who sought their favor for daily survival. The Greeks believed the divine permeated every aspect of their world, from the highest mountain peak to the humblest hearth. Take, for instance, the god Hephaestus, the blacksmith of Olympus. Though lame and cast down from the heavens, he forged wondrous objects: thunderbolts for Zeus, armor for heroes, and intricate automatons that could move like living beings. His workshop, deep beneath volcanic mountains like Mount Etna, was said to rumble with the sound of his hammer. In the smoke and sparks, mortals saw the power of creation born from hardship and perseverance. Or consider Demeter, the goddess of grain and fertility, whose grief over her daughter Persephone's yearly descent into the underworld explained the changing seasons. When Persephone was with Demeter, crops flourished and the earth blossomed. When she returned below, the world grew cold and barren. This cycle reminded humans of nature's rhythm and their own place within it, a balance between life and death, growth and decay. The sea, too, was both a provider and a threat. Poseidon, god of the waters and earthquakes, was worshipped with both reverence and fear. Sailors offered sacrifices before voyages, hoping to appease the tempestuous deity who could summon storms or calm waves. Myths told of giants rising from the deep, of shipwrecks caused by divine wrath. but also of safe harbors and bountiful catches. In towns and villages, rituals marked life's milestones, births, marriages, and funerals. Families honored ancestors, believing that their spirits influenced fortune and fate. Festivals brought communities together, celebrating the gods with feasts, music, and dance. Through these lived experiences, mythology was not distant or abstract. It was woven into the fabric of daily life, guiding behavior, explaining the unexplainable, and offering a sense of connection to forces greater than oneself. Even the concept of fate, represented by the Moirai, the three fates who spun, measured, and cut the thread of life, reminded mortals of the delicate balance between free will and destiny. No god, not even Zeus himself, could fully escape their decree. This deep intertwining of the divine with the mundane ensured that Greek mythology remained vibrant, evolving with each retelling and each generation. As we journey deeper into these tales, we uncover not just stories, but the very worldview of an ancient civilization, a civilization that sought to understand itself through myth. The legacy of Greek mythology reaches beyond mere stories. It laid the foundation for much of Western culture's understanding of the world, humanity, and the divine. Yet, within this grand tapestry, countless lesser-known myths and regional tales flourished, each enriching the mosaic of ancient belief. One such figure was Pan, the rustic god of the wild, shepherds, and flocks. Half man, half goat, Pan embodied nature's untamed spirit. His sudden, eerie cry, the panic that could unsettle armies, was said to arise unexpectedly, reminding humans of nature's unpredictable power. Pan's presence in forests and mountains brought both joy and fear, reflecting humankind's complex relationship with the natural world. Then there were the nymphs, spirits of rivers, trees, and groves, who danced in moonlight and inspired poets. They were neither fully divine nor mortal, representing nature's ephemeral beauty and mystery. Humans sought their favor to ensure safe passage across rivers or fertile lands, and many myths tell of mortals falling in love with these elusive beings. The Muses, 9 daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, inspired creativity and knowledge. They presided over history, poetry, music, and dance, guiding artists and scholars alike. Invoking a muse before composing was customary, as a plea for divine inspiration. These stories also caution against arrogance and disrespect. The tale of Niobe, whose pride in her many children offended Leto, resulted in a tragic loss, reminding mortals of humility before the gods. The fate of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun on wings of wax, speaks to human ambition's limits. Such myths did not merely entertain. They taught lessons, preserved cultural values, and connected people across time and place. Greek mythology's influence spread, merging with Roman traditions and echoing through Renaissance art, literature, and psychology. Archetypes like the hero's journey, the trickster, and the wise mentor trace back to these ancient narratives. Today, in movies, books, and everyday language, these myths remain alive, inviting us to explore the depths of human nature and the mysteries of existence. As we close this chapter of the mythic saga, remember that these stories were never fixed. They were retold and reshaped, much like the cultures they sprang from, fluid, vibrant, and eternal. The world of Greek mythology also brims with tales of transformation, stories where gods, mortals, and even entire landscapes change shape, reflecting themes of loss, escape, or divine punishment. One of the most poignant transformations is that of Daphne, a nymph pursued relentlessly by Apollo. As Apollo's desire grew, Daphne fled, desperate to preserve her freedom and purity. In her flight, she called upon her father, a river god, who answered by turning her into a laurel tree. Apollo, forever enamored, honored her by adopting the laurel wreath as his sacred symbol, a crown worn by poets and victors alike. Such metamorphoses reveal the complex interplay between love, power, and autonomy. Another famous example is the story of Narcissus, whose obsession with his own reflection led him to a watery grave, transforming into the flower that bears his name. This myth warns of self-obsession and the perils of vanity. The god Zeus himself often assumed various forms to approach mortals. Be it a swan, a bull, or a shower of gold, reflecting both his boundless power and the blurred line between divine and earthly realms. Transformation also extended to places. Mount Olympus itself was a sacred space, shrouded in mist and mystery. The river Styx, separating the world of the living and the dead, was both a physical boundary and a symbol of irrevocable change. Even seasons are explained through mythic metamorphoses. Persephone's yearly return from the underworld bringing spring's renewal, her descent marking winter's chill. These narratives, rich in symbolism, allowed the Greeks to understand the fluidity of existence. Identity, nature, and fate were never fixed but subject to change. The stories encourage acceptance of life's transience and the enduring possibility of renewal. Beyond transformation, Greek mythology teaches about the intricate relationships between gods and mortals, alliances forged and broken, favors granted and curses unleashed. From divine parentage to punishment for hubris, the tales explore the boundaries of human behavior and divine justice. They show that while gods were powerful, they were not omnipotent. Their emotions and rivalries often mirrored those of humanity. This shared vulnerability created a mythology that remains deeply human and timeless. Among the vast pantheon of Greek gods and myths, one of the most intriguing aspects is the role of fate and prophecy. The ancient Greeks believed that destiny was an immutable thread woven by the Moirai, the three fates, who determine the span and course of every life, mortal or divine. These powerful figures, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, spun the thread of life, measured its length, and ultimately cut it, deciding the moment of death. Even Zeus, the king of gods, was subject to their decrees, illustrating the limits of divine power. Prophecy, closely tied to fate, played a central role in many myths and lives of heroes. Oracles, most famously the Oracle of Delphi, were revered as conduits for divine will. Pilgrims and rulers alike sought answers to pressing questions about war, love, and destiny. The Pythia, the priestess at Delphi, would enter trance-like states, offering cryptic pronouncements interpreted by priests. These pronouncements often came with double meanings, weaving riddles that could both warn and mislead. Take the tragic story of Oedipus, the king who unknowingly fulfilled a dire prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother. Despite efforts to avoid fate, his actions unwittingly led him to its fulfillment, highlighting the Greek belief in the inevitability of destiny. Similarly, Achilles was told his fate, to die young but gloriously in battle. Yet he embraced this path rather than live in obscurity. These myths reflect a profound tension, the desire for free will contrasted against the acceptance of predetermined fate. They ask whether humans can change their paths, or are bound by forces beyond their control. Moreover, the theme of hubris, excessive pride or defiance of the gods, served as a cautionary thread throughout mythology. Mortals who challenge divine authority often face dire consequences. The story of King Pentheus, who mocked Dionysus and was torn apart by his own mother, and ants driven mad by the god, exemplifies this warning. This delicate balance between fate, free will, and divine will shape the moral and philosophical fabric of ancient Greece. In these stories, the gods were not distant arbiters, but active participants in human affairs, weaving destinies that humans struggle to understand or accept. Such narratives endure because they mirror fundamental human questions about control, responsibility, and the meaning of life. As the myths unfold, one cannot overlook the significant role of love and tragedy, elements so entwined that they shape many of the most enduring stories. The Greek gods, despite their immortality and power, were not immune to the tumultuous passions that govern mortal hearts. Their affairs, jealousies, and heartbreaks ripple through the myths, teaching lessons both tender and harsh. Take the tale of Orpheus and Eurydice. Orpheus, a mortal gifted with music so enchanting that even stones would weep, loved his wife Eurydice deeply. When she died suddenly, he descended into the underworld, determined to bring her back. His music softened the hearts of Hades and Persephone, who agreed to release Eurydice on one condition: Orpheus must not look back at her until they reached the surface. But in a moment of doubt, he glanced, and she vanished forever. This tragic story reminds us of love's fragility and the pain of loss. Then, there is the saga of Pyramus and Thisbe, star-crossed lovers whose story inspired Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Forbidden to marry by their families, they communicated through a crack in a wall. Their plan to elope ended in misunderstanding and death, showing the devastating power of fate and miscommunication. The gods themselves were tangled in passionate relationships. Aphrodite, goddess of love, was married to the crafty Hephaestus, but had many lovers, including Ares, the god of war. Their affair brought both love and conflict, reflecting the chaotic interplay of desire and power. Zeus's numerous liaisons often resulted in demigods, whose births led to great adventures and sometimes tragedy. Hera's jealousy frequently punished these mortal offspring, illustrating the complex emotions even divine beings experienced. Love, in Greek mythology, was not merely romantic. It could be possessive, destructive, or redemptive. The story of Eros, Cupid, god of desire, demonstrates this duality. His arrows could ignite love or cause suffering, reminding mortals that passion is unpredictable and potent. These tales, full of emotion and consequence, speak to the human condition's depths. They explore the joy of connection and the sorrow of separation, the hope born from love and the despair of its loss. Through these narratives, ancient Greeks expressed their understanding of love's power, its ability to inspire greatness and tragedy alike. As we delve further into Greek mythology, it becomes clear that the ancient Greeks were fascinated not only with the gods and heroes, but also with monsters and creatures that embody chaos, danger, and the unknown. These beings often served as obstacles for heroes, or as manifestations of natural forces and human fears. One of the most famous monsters is the Hydra, a serpent-like creature with multiple heads. Each time a head was cut off, two more would grow back, making it nearly impossible to defeat. It was Heracles who faced the Hydra during his 12 labors, using both strength and cunning by cauterizing the necks to prevent regrowth. This battle symbolized the struggle against seemingly endless challenges and the triumph of perseverance. The Minotaur, another iconic beast, was a creature with the body of a man and the head of a bull. Born from the union of Pasiphae, wife of King Minos, and a sacred bull, it was confined within the labyrinth, a maze designed by Daedalus. Theseus, the Athenian hero, volunteered to enter the maze and slay the Minotaur, using a ball of thread given by Ariadne to find his way out. This myth reflects themes of sacrifice, ingenuity, and liberation from chaos. Then there are the sirens, creatures with the body of a bird and the head of a woman, whose enchanting songs lured sailors to their doom upon the rocky shores. Odysseus famously navigated past them by having his crew plug their ears with wax while he was tied to the mast, resisting their deadly call. The sirens represent temptation and the peril of losing oneself to desire. The Chimera, a monstrous fire-breathing hybrid of lion, goat, and serpent, was another fearsome foe defeated by the hero Bellerophon, who rode the winged horse Pegasus. Such creatures embodied unnatural combinations, symbolizing disorder that heroes were meant to confront. These monsters, terrifying yet fascinating, were not mere villains. They carried symbolic weight. They represented the untamed forces of nature, human fears, and challenges that tested courage and wisdom. Overcoming them was as much about internal struggle as external victory. In this way, Greek mythology teaches that darkness and danger are part of the human experience, but that with bravery, intelligence, and sometimes divine aid, one can prevail. The tales of heroes and monsters continue to inspire, reminding us that every journey includes facing our own inner beasts. The pantheon of Greek mythology is vast, but alongside the Olympian gods were numerous lesser deities and spirits who governed the subtler aspects of life and nature. These figures, often overlooked, were vital to ancient Greeks' understanding of the world's complexity. For instance, the Ori, goddesses of the seasons and natural order, ensured the smooth progression of time and agricultural cycles. Their names, Thallo, spring, Oxo, growth, and Carpo, harvest, reflect the rhythms that shaped human survival and festivity. Likewise, the Anim were gods of the winds: Boreas, north wind; Notus, south wind; Zephyrus, west wind; and Eurus, east wind. Each wind brought different weather, influencing travel, farming, and daily life. Sailors prayed to them for favorable breezes, aware that a change in wind could mean safety or disaster. In the realm of love and attraction, the Erotes, winged gods including Eros, Hymen, god of marriage, and Himeros, desire, played important roles. Their influence extended beyond passion to social bonds and fertility, essential for community continuity. Shadowy and mysterious, the Furies were female spirits of violent death, hovering over battlefields to claim the souls of the slain. Their presence reminded warriors and civilians alike of mortality's inescapable grasp. Chthonic deities, connected to the earth and the underworld, such as Hades and Persephone, governed death and rebirth. Their cults and myths reflected beliefs about the afterlife and the sacred balance between life and death. Even the humble household had its protective spirits. The Lares and Penates safeguarded the home and family, receiving offerings at daily meals. These figures symbolized the intimate link between the divine and the personal sphere. The richness of this spiritual ecosystem reveals how ancient Greeks perceived the world, as alive with forces both grand and minute, each demanding respect and understanding. Together, these deities and spirits formed a complex, interconnected web, one that shaped ritual, culture, and the very fabric of Greek life. Their stories, though less famous than those of Zeus or Heracles, provide profound insights into how mythology reflected and influenced ancient societies' values and worldview. Among the many lessons Greek mythology offers, one of the most profound revolves around the concept of justice, both divine and human. The gods were not only powerful beings, but also arbiters of moral order, enforcing laws that governed behavior and punished transgressions. Central to this was Themis, the Titaness of divine law and order, often depicted holding scales to weigh justice impartially. She represented the unwritten codes that maintained balance in the universe, bridging the will of the gods and human society. Her daughters, the Hermes, or Furies, were fierce goddesses who pursued wrongdoers relentlessly, especially those guilty of familial crimes like murder and betrayal. Their presence was a constant reminder that no offense, however hidden, escaped divine scrutiny. The concept of Nemesis, goddess of retribution, also played a crucial role. She ensured that excessive pride or hubris, defiance against the gods, was met with fitting punishment, restoring balance. The stories of Oedipus, Agamemnon, and other tragic figures often revolve around this cycle of sin, punishment, and sometimes redemption. Their fates highlight the Greeks' belief in the consequences of moral failings and the importance of humility before the divine order. Justice was not only a divine matter, but also deeply embedded in human institutions. Greek city-states developed laws and courts inspired by these mythic principles, striving to mirror the gods' sense of fairness. Even the heroes, despite their extraordinary gifts, were subject to moral codes. Their journeys often included tests of character, as much as feats of strength. Through mythology, the Greeks explored complex ethical questions. What is justice? How should power be used? Can one escape destiny or atone for past wrongs? These reflections remain relevant, revealing the enduring human struggle to define right and wrong within a world of uncertainty. Greek myths, therefore, are more than stories. They are meditations on morality, power, and the fragile balance between order and chaos. In the vast panorama of Greek mythology, one cannot ignore the profound role played by prophecy and oracles, which were deeply intertwined with both divine will and human fate. These mystical revelations were sought to discern the future, offering guidance, or sometimes cryptic warnings, to kings, heroes, and common folk alike. The most famous oracle was that of Delphi, dedicated to Apollo. Situated atop Mount Parnassus, the sanctuary attracted pilgrims from all over the Greek world. The Pythia, a priestess inspired by the god, would deliver enigmatic pronouncements, often veiled in riddles. Interpreting these messages required skill, for the ambiguity was part of their power and danger. Many myths revolve around prophecies that shape destinies, sometimes tragically so. The tale of King Laius and Queen Jocasta, whose son Oedipus was fated to kill his father and marry his mother, underscores the inescapable nature of prophecy. Despite efforts to avoid it, fate unfolds relentlessly, illustrating a central theme in Greek thought. Similarly, the story of Cassandra, cursed by Apollo to utter true prophecies that no one would believe, highlights the tension between knowledge and powerlessness. Her warnings about Troy's fall were ignored, leading to disaster. Prophecies influence not only individuals, but entire wars and political decisions. Leaders consulted oracles before battles, marriages, or founding cities, believing that the gods' will was revealed through these sacred channels. This faith and prophecy reflects a worldview where the future is both predetermined and mysterious, where mortals must navigate between accepting fate and exercising free will. The myth suggests that while humans might glimpse the threads of destiny, their full tapestry remains hidden, woven by divine hands beyond mortal reach. Thus, oracles and prophecies stand as symbols of humanity's longing to understand the unknown, and to find meaning in the uncertain flow of time. As we explore deeper into the vast and intricate world of Greek mythology, it becomes impossible to overlook the profound influence of the Underworld, the shadowy realm ruled by Hades and Persephone, where souls journey after death. Unlike many modern interpretations, the Greek underworld was not simply a place of punishment or reward, but a complex, multifaceted domain reflecting the ancient Greeks' nuanced beliefs about death, the afterlife, and the soul's journey. The underworld, also known as Hades after its ruler, was imagined as a vast underground kingdom, separated from the world of the living by the river Styx, a dark, flowing boundary no soul could cross without aid. Upon death, the soul would be ferried across this river by Charon, the stern and silent boatman, but only if the deceased had received proper burial rites and were given an obol, a coin placed in the mouth to pay the fare. Those who lacked this coin were doomed to wander the banks of the Styx, unable to find peace. Within the underworld, various regions reflected the fates awaiting souls after death. The asphodel meadows were a gray, quiet expanse where ordinary souls wandered in a dreamlike state, neither punished nor rewarded, trapped in an endless limbo between life and oblivion. In stark contrast, the Elysian Fields, or Elysium, offered a blissful existence to heroes, virtuous souls, and those favored by the gods, a place of eternal springtime, music, and peace. These blessed souls lived free from toil and sorrow, often allowed to reincarnate if they so chose, a rare exception to the permanence of death. At the darkest end lay Tartarus, a deep abyss reserved for the most wicked or rebellious souls and certain imprisoned titans. Here, the souls endured eternal punishments, fitting their crimes against the gods or humanity. For instance, Sisyphus was condemned to endlessly roll a massive boulder uphill, only for it to slip back down each time he neared the summit, a cruel metaphor for futile struggle. Similarly, Tantalus was tormented by unreachable food and water, forever tantalized yet forever deprived. Ruling over this somber realm was Hades, a god often misunderstood. Unlike the fiery devil figures of later traditions, Hades was a solemn, just ruler who maintained the natural order of death. His wife, Persephone, divided her time between the underworld and the surface world, symbolizing the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Their myth explained the changing seasons, Persephone's descent causing the barren winter, and her return heralding spring's renewal. Numerous myths recount journeys into the underworld, symbolizing not only physical death, but spiritual transformation and revelation. Orpheus's descent to retrieve Eurydice is the most famous, a poignant tale of love, loss, and the limits of human hope. Heracles' 12th labor required him to wrestle Cerberus, the three-headed guardian dog, and bring him to the surface, demonstrating mortal courage confronting death itself. The underworld was also home to shades of the dead, spirits that lingered, sometimes interacting with the living through necromancy or rituals. These beliefs influenced Greek funerary practices, which emphasized proper burial, offerings, and remembrance to ensure the soul's peaceful rest. Through these rich narratives, the Greeks grappled with the mystery of mortality, seeking to understand what lies beyond life and how to honor the dead. The underworld was not merely a place of dread, but a vital part of the cosmic balance, reflecting the belief that death, like life, was a natural and sacred passage. This vision influenced their art, literature, and ritual, underscoring a culture deeply aware of life's impermanence and the hope for continuity beyond it. As the threads of Greek mythology weave ever more intricate patterns, one of the most fascinating aspects lies in the stories of mortal heroes, figures who straddled the boundary between divine and human worlds, embodying qualities both exceptional and deeply relatable. These heroes, often born of gods and mortals, faced great trials, accomplished remarkable feats, and yet were bound by human emotions, flaws, and mortality. Heracles, known to the Romans as Hercules, remains perhaps the most celebrated hero in Greek myth. His story is one of extraordinary strength and endurance, yet also of suffering and redemption. Born the son of Zeus and the mortal woman Alcmene, Heracles' very existence was a source of conflict, drawing the ire of Hera, Zeus's jealous wife. She tormented him relentlessly, driving him to madness, which tragically led him to kill his own wife and children. Seeking atonement, Heracles undertook the 12 labors, 12 seemingly impossible tasks assigned by King Eurystheus. These labors ranged from slaying the fearsome Nemean lion, whose impenetrable skin made it invincible, to capturing the golden hind of Artemis, to cleaning the Augean stables in a single day, a feat accomplished by diverting rivers. Each labor was not merely a test of brute strength, but demanded cleverness, resilience, and courage. Through these trials, Heracles became a symbol of perseverance and the human capacity to overcome suffering. His adventures did not end there. Heracles also participated in epic quests such as the Argonaut expedition to retrieve the Golden Fleece, battling giants, and even journeying to the underworld to capture Cerberus. His death, caused by the poisoned garment given by his wife Deianira, mistakenly believing it would secure his fidelity, marked his transformation into a god, granting him immortality on Mount Olympus. Another heroic figure, Perseus, is renowned for slaying the Gorgon Medusa, a monstrous creature whose gaze turned onlookers to stone. Armed with gifts from the gods, a mirrored shield from Athena, winged sandals from Hermes, and a sword from Hephaestus, Perseus embarked on his perilous quest. After beheading Medusa, he used her severed head as a powerful weapon in subsequent adventures, such as rescuing Andromeda from a sea monster. Perseus' tale highlights themes of bravery, divine favor, and the triumph of cleverness over terror. Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Trojan War, exemplifies the tragic hero. His near invulnerability, except for his famous heel, made him unstoppable on the battlefield. Yet his pride and wrath also brought devastating consequences. The quarrel with Agamemnon, withdrawal from battle, and eventual death underscore the complex interplay of honor, fate, and mortality. These heroes, while performing grand deeds, also grappled with very human struggles: love, jealousy, grief, and the desire for glory. Their stories offered ancient Greeks models of virtue and warning, exploring what it meant to be mortal in a world governed by capricious gods. Through their journeys, triumphs, and tragedies, Greek mythology presents not just tales of adventure but profound reflections on human nature, the quest for meaning, and the delicate balance between fate and free will. Delving deeper into the fabric of Greek mythology, we find that the world of mortals and gods alike was frequently shaped and shaken by the actions and decisions of kings and rulers. These figures, often portrayed with a mix of greatness and tragic flaws, reveal much about ancient Greek conceptions of leadership, power, and the consequences of pride and fate. Take King Minos of Crete, a ruler both feared and respected, whose story is inseparable from the legend of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth. Minos was said to have been granted a divine bull by Poseidon, meant to be sacrificed as a sign of reverence. However, Minos' failure to honor this agreement, keeping the bull instead, incited Poseidon's wrath. As punishment, Poseidon caused Minos' wife Pasiphae to fall in unnatural love with the bull, leading to the birth of the Minotaur, a monstrous creature confined within the labyrinth constructed by the master craftsman Daedalus. Minos' reign was marked by strict laws and justice, yet his story also illustrates the dangers of arrogance and divine retribution. The labyrinth itself symbolizes complexity, entrapment, and the fine line between civilization and chaos. The tale of Theseus' voluntary journey into the labyrinth to slay the Minotaur reflects human courage confronting monstrous challenges, born of divine displeasure and human error. Another notable ruler was King Agamemnon, leader of the Greek forces during the Trojan War. His story intertwines themes of ambition, sacrifice, and familial tragedy. Before the Greeks could set sail to Troy, Agamemnon was compelled to sacrifice his daughter Iphigenia to appease the goddess Artemis, who had stilled the winds. This act sowed deep resentment within his family, culminating in a cycle of betrayal and revenge. Upon his triumphant return, Agamemnon met a brutal end at the hands of his wife Clytemnestra and her lover Aegisthus, who resented his prolonged absence and cruelty. This dark chapter illustrates the fragility of power and the personal costs of war and ambition. King Oedipus, whose tragic fate has echoed through literature and philosophy, serves as a profound exploration of knowledge, ignorance, and destiny. Attempting to escape a prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother, Oedipus inadvertently fulfills it, leading to ruin and exile. His story forces reflection on the limits of human control and the often painful intersection of fate and free will. These kings and rulers, flawed yet monumental, serve as cautionary tales and mirrors reflecting ancient Greek anxieties about leadership, divine justice, and the consequences of human pride. Their stories reveal that authority without humility can lead to downfall, and that the gods will remain an ever-present force, reminding mortals of their place in the cosmic order. In this complex interplay of power and fate, Greek mythology offers timeless insights into the nature of governance, responsibility, and the human condition. Greek mythology's rich tapestry is woven with tales of divine love and its often tumultuous consequences. The gods, despite their immortality and vast power, were prone to the passions, jealousies, and desires that shaped the mortal world as well. Their relationships, both amongst themselves and with humans, offer insight into the complexity of love, the cost of desire, and the boundaries between divine and mortal realms. One of the most captivating love stories involves the goddess Aphrodite, the embodiment of beauty and desire. Born from the sea foam, Aphrodite wielded immense influence over gods and mortals alike, inspiring love, passion, and sometimes destructive obsession. Though married to Hephaestus, the god of the forge and fire, Aphrodite's heart often belonged to others, notably Ares, the god of war. Their clandestine affair, revealed in a clever trap by Hephaestus, is a reminder of both the entanglement and consequences of divine passions. Another poignant tale is that of Psyche and Eros, Cupid, where the mortal Psyche's beauty rivaled that of Aphrodite herself, stirring jealousy in the goddess. Eros, Aphrodite's son, fell in love with Psyche and secretly married her, but their union was fraught with trials. Psyche was forbidden to see his face, and when she disobeyed, she faced near destruction. Yet through perseverance and divine aid, she was ultimately immortalized and united with Eros forever. This myth symbolizes the transformative power of love and the soul's journey toward union and fulfillment. The tragic story of Phaedra, who fell hopelessly in love with her stepson Hippolytus, further explores the destructive potential of unrequited passion. Her forbidden desire, fueled by Aphrodite's wrath, led to false accusations, despair, and death, showcasing the fragile boundaries between love, honor, and madness. Moreover, the tale of Zeus's many lovers and offspring reflects the gods' complex relationships with humanity. Heroes such as Perseus, Hercules, and Helen of Troy were born from these unions, their extraordinary lives shaped by both divine favor and mortal limitations. Yet, the jealousy of Hera, Zeus's wife, often brought suffering upon these children and their mortal mothers, highlighting themes of conflict between love, power, and vengeance. These myths reveal that love in the Greek worldview was not merely a source of joy but a powerful, sometimes dangerous force that could uplift or destroy. It bridged the realms of gods and men, shaping destinies and altering the course of history. Through stories of passion, betrayal, sacrifice, and redemption, Greek mythology captures the profound complexity of love, its capacity to inspire greatness and chaos alike. Greek mythology is not only a collection of divine tales, but also a reflection of ancient Greek values, especially regarding hospitality, or xenia, which was considered a sacred duty binding hosts and guests in mutual respect and generosity. Violating this code was seen as an affront to the gods, often bringing severe consequences. The importance of hospitality is vividly illustrated in the epic of the Odyssey. After the long and arduous journey from Troy, Odysseus' fate often hinged on the hospitality, or hostility, he encountered. Some hosts, like the Phaeacians, offered warm welcome, gifts, and safe passage, embodying the ideal of xenia. Others, such as the Cyclops Polyphemus, brutally violated the guest-host relationship, imprisoning and attempting to devour Odysseus and his men. This act of savagery invited divine retribution, as Odysseus prayed to Poseidon, Polyphemus' father, to punish the Greeks. Hospitality extended beyond mere shelter and food. It symbolized trust and respect between strangers and communities. Rituals included offering water, food, and sometimes gifts, signifying goodwill. The gods themselves were known to disguise as travelers to test mortals' hospitality, rewarding the generous and punishing the inhospitable. Violations of xenia could bring curses, misfortune, or even destruction, emphasizing the social and religious importance of this practice. The story of Baucis and Philemon, an elderly couple who warmly welcomed Zeus and Hermes disguised as mortals, exemplifies the rewards of piety and kindness, transformed into guardians of a sacred temple as a reward for their virtue. Furthermore, Xenia was a foundation of political and social order in ancient Greece. Alliances, treaties, and friendships were often cemented through acts of hospitality, ensuring peace and cooperation among city-states. This concept, deeply woven into myth and daily life, highlights the Greeks' understanding that civilization depended on respect for others, the gods, and the sacred bonds that unite people. Hospitality was not merely etiquette but a divine law, an essential element maintaining harmony between humans and the gods. As such, the myths teach us that generosity and respect towards strangers are timeless virtues, guardians of social order and reflections of divine will. In Greek mythology, the arts and creativity themselves were divinely inspired, often attributed to the Muses, 9 goddesses who personified knowledge, music, poetry, and dance. These figures embodied the sacred source of artistic expression, bridging the mortal and divine realms by inspiring creativity in humans. The Muses, daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, memory, each governed a specific domain. Calliope presided over epic poetry, Clio over history, Erato over love poetry, Euterpe over music, Melpomene over tragedy, Polyhymnia over hymns, Terpsichore over dance, Talia over comedy, and Urania over astronomy. Together, they symbolize the totality of human intellectual and artistic pursuits. Invoking the Muses at the beginning of a work was customary for poets and storytellers, as Homer famously did in the Iliad and Odyssey, seeking their divine aid to tell tales worthy of remembrance. This invocation was more than tradition. It reflected the belief that true art required a spark of divine inspiration. Creativity was not solely about entertainment, but also a means of preserving history, teaching moral lessons, and exploring human experience. The arts served as a conduit for cultural memory and communal identity. Many myths also celebrate individual artists blessed by the gods. Orpheus, gifted with music so enchanting it could charm wild beasts and even inanimate objects, is a prime example. His descent into the underworld to reclaim Eurydice demonstrates the transformative and redemptive power of art, though his story also warns of the limits of human endeavor. The craftsman Daedalus, renowned for his skill and inventiveness, fashioned the labyrinth and wings for his son Icarus. His tale highlights the dual nature of creativity, the potential to achieve greatness, and the risks of hubris and overreach. These stories affirm that art and invention are sacred gifts, capable of connecting humans to divine truths, transcending mortality, and shaping the world. In ancient Greece, creativity was a vital thread woven into the fabric of life, reflecting the belief that beauty, knowledge, and expression are divine attributes. The Muses and their inspired followers remind us that imagination and artistry are powerful forces, timeless bridges between the earthly and the eternal. The theme of justice and vengeance deeply permeates Greek mythology, especially as it manifests through familial curses and blood feuds that span generations. These stories reveal the complexities of honor, guilt, and the often devastating consequences of human actions, shaping not only individual destinies, but entire lineages. One of the most notorious examples is the House of Atreus, a royal family cursed with a cycle of murder, betrayal, and revenge. It began with King Tantalus, who offended the gods by serving them his son Pelops in a gruesome banquet. Though the gods restored Pelops to life, the stain of this atrocity haunted his descendants. Pelops' sons, Atreus and Niestus, were embroiled in a bitter rivalry that escalated to horrific extremes. Atreus, seeking revenge, served Thyestes a meal made from the flesh of Thyestes' own children. This act of cannibalism deepened the curse, perpetuating violence across generations. Atreus' sons, Agamemnon and Menelaus, became key figures in the Trojan War saga, carrying the weight of their family's dark legacy. Agamemnon's sacrifice of his daughter Iphigenia and his eventual murder by his wife Clytemnestra further illustrate the tragic consequences of inherited guilt. Similarly, the story of Oedipus involves a curse laid upon his family, the Labdacids, resulting in patricide, incest, and madness. The consequences of actions, whether by fate or choice, cascade through time, affecting not only individuals but entire dynasties. These narratives reflect Greek anxieties about the power of past sins and the difficulty of escaping destiny. They explore how vengeance, even when seen as justice, can perpetuate suffering indefinitely. The gods often intervene in these cycles, either exacerbating the curses or offering opportunities for redemption, emphasizing that divine justice is intertwined with human responsibility. Through these tragic sagas, Greek mythology probes the tension between fate and free will, justice and revenge, illuminating the fragile and often painful nature of human existence. They remind us that the past shapes the present and future, but also that recognition and change are possible, though never easy. In the realm of Greek mythology, the concept of heroism extends far beyond feats of strength and battle prowess. It encompasses the moral struggles, sacrifices, and journeys of transformation that define the human experience. These heroes, mortal yet extraordinary, offer models of courage and resilience, but also serve as cautionary figures grappling with their own flaws and fate. Take Jason, leader of the Argonauts, whose quest for the Golden Fleece united some of the greatest heroes of Greek lore. Jason's journey was fraught with peril, facing harpies, clashing rocks, and magical enchantments. With the help of the sorceress Medea, he succeeded in acquiring the fleece, symbolizing kingship and divine favor. Yet Jason's story is also marked by betrayal and tragedy, as his abandonment of Medea led to devastating consequences, reminding us that heroism is complicated by personal choices and consequences. Similarly, Atalanta, a fierce huntress and swift-footed warrior, defied gender norms of her time, choosing independence and adventure over traditional roles. She participated in the Caledonian boar hunt, a dangerous expedition that showcased her skill and bravery. Atalanta's story explores themes of autonomy, love, and the tension between societal expectations and personal desires. Odysseus, renowned for his cunning and endurance, embodies a different kind of heroism, one rooted in intellect, adaptability, and perseverance. His 10-year voyage home after the Trojan War is a testament to human resilience and the quest for belonging. Along the way, he faced monsters, gods, and temptations, his cleverness often saving his life and those of his crew. Yet his flaws, pride, and occasional deceit bring challenges and delay his return. These heroes' journeys reflect the Greek understanding that greatness is not simply given, but earned through trials that test both body and soul. Their stories reveal the tension between human ambition and divine will, between glory and suffering. Moreover, heroism in Greek myth often entails sacrifice of comfort, loved ones, or even life itself, for a cause greater than oneself. This complex portrayal encourages reflection on what it means to be courageous and the costs that such courage entails. In their triumphs and tragedies, these mortal champions illuminate the enduring human struggle to find purpose, honor, and identity within the ever-shifting tides of fate. Greek mythology is filled with stories that reveal the profound connection between humanity and nature, expressed through gods, spirits, and myths that personify natural forces. The ancient Greeks viewed the natural world not as a backdrop, but as a living, sacred entity imbued with divine presence and power. The gods of nature, Pan, the god of the wild, shepherds, and flocks, with his goat-like legs and mischievous spirit, embodied the untamed wilderness. Pan's music, played on his panpipes, was said to stir both delight and terror, giving rise to the term panic. He represented the primal forces of nature, unpredictable yet essential. Nymphs, minor female deities tied to particular natural features such as trees, dryads, rivers, naiads, and mountains, oreads, were guardians of the environment, nurturing the life within their domains. These spirits symbolized the Greeks' reverence for nature's vitality and fragility. The seasons and agricultural cycles were governed by deities like Demeter, goddess of the harvest, whose grief over the abduction of her daughter Persephone by Hades caused winter's arrival. This myth not only explained the changing seasons, but underscored the interconnectedness of life, death, and rebirth in the natural order. Myths also explain natural phenomena through divine actions. The flooding of rivers, storms, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions were manifestations of God's moods or battles. Poseidon, god of the sea, was feared and respected for his tempestuous nature, capable of both calm seas and devastating storms. These stories reflect an intimate relationship between humans and the environment, where respect, ritual, and understanding were vital for survival. Festivals and offerings honored the natural deities, seeking their favor for bountiful harvests, safe travels, and protection. The personification of natural elements in myth encouraged Greeks to see themselves as part of a larger cosmic system, where balance and harmony were essential. This worldview fostered a profound appreciation for the environment's sacredness, a theme that resonates even in modern times. Greek mythology thus offers not only thrilling tales, but also wisdom about living in harmony with the world around us. Greek mythology does not merely recount tales of gods, heroes, and monsters. It also richly explores the rituals, festivals, and religious practices that bound ancient society together, reflecting their worldview and relationship with the divine. These customs were vital expressions of piety, community cohesion, and a means to honor gods whose favor was essential for prosperity and protection. One of the most important aspects of Greek religious life was the festival, a vibrant, communal occasion blending ceremony, athletic competition, theatrical performances, and feasting. The Olympic Games, held every 4 years at Olympia, were not only a celebration of physical prowess, but also a sacred tribute to Zeus. Athletes competed for glory, but the underlying purpose was to honor the gods and reaffirm social bonds across the Hellenic world. Similarly, the Dionysia, dedicated to Dionysus, god of wine and revelry, combined dramatic contests with ecstatic celebrations. Tragedies and comedies performed during these festivals explored human nature, morality, and the gods' influence, engaging audiences in profound reflection through art and storytelling. Rituals often involve sacrifices, animals, food, or libations, offered to deities to ensure their favor. The act of sacrifice was both an offering and a communication, acknowledging divine power and seeking blessings. Priests and priestesses performed elaborate ceremonies, guiding the community in honoring the gods properly. Temples served as focal points for worship, often housing statues of deities, and serving as venues for ritual. Each city-state revered particular gods as patrons. Athens honored Athena, its protector and goddess of wisdom, while Delphi was famous for its temple to Apollo. These religious practices were deeply woven into daily life, influencing politics, agriculture, and personal conduct. They reinforced the belief that humans and gods existed in a reciprocal relationship, where respect and ritual maintained cosmic balance. Myths themselves often provided the narratives underpinning festivals and rites, explaining their origins and meanings, thus linking story and practice seamlessly. This integration of myth, ritual, and community life highlights how ancient Greeks understood their world as a tapestry where human actions and divine forces continuously interacted. Through these traditions, Greek mythology transcends mere storytelling, becoming a living, breathing culture that shaped identity, morality, and the pursuit of harmony. As we arrive at the culmination of this expansive journey through Greek mythology, it becomes clear that these ancient tales are more than mere stories. They are profound explorations of human nature, the cosmos, and the eternal dance between mortals and the divine. The myths weave together themes of creation, love, power, fate, and transformation, reflecting the ancient Greeks' quest to understand their place in the universe. The legacy of Greek mythology extends far beyond its original context. It has shaped art, literature, philosophy, and even modern storytelling, inspiring countless generations. From the tragic heroes who grapple with fate and free will to the capricious gods who embody natural forces and human passions, these myths continue to resonate because they speak to universal human experiences. Ancient Greeks used these narratives not only to explain the unknown, but to grapple with fundamental questions. Why do we suffer? What is justice? How do we balance ambition with humility? Through stories of gods and mortals, of triumph and tragedy, they sought wisdom and meaning. Moreover, the rich symbolism embedded in these myths offers layers of interpretation, from psychological insights into the human psyche to reflections on societal values and the natural world. As we close this chapter on the complete history of Greek mythology, we recognize that these stories remain vibrant and relevant, inviting us to explore timeless themes through the lens of imagination and wonder. In embracing these myths, we connect to a shared human heritage, one that reminds us of our vulnerabilities, our strengths, and the eternal mysteries that inspire us to seek knowledge and meaning. Thank you for joining this journey through the enchanting and complex world of Greek mythology. A world where gods walked among mortals, heroes faced impossible odds, and the forces of nature and fate intertwined in stories that continue to captivate and enlighten. While the core tales of gods and heroes form the backbone of Greek mythology, equally captivating are the lesser-known myths that reveal the cultural richness and diverse beliefs of ancient Greece. These stories often explore themes of transformation, identity, and the blurred lines between human and divine realms. One of the most striking motifs is metamorphosis, the transformation of beings into animals, plants, or natural features, often as a form of punishment, protection, or escape. Ovid's Metamorphoses, though Roman, drew heavily on Greek sources, compiling many such tales that illuminate this theme. For instance, the story of Daphne, a nymph pursued relentlessly by Apollo, ends with her transformation into a laurel tree to escape his advances. This myth not only explains the sacred status of the laurel in Greek culture, but also reflects themes of chastity, desire, and loss. Similarly, the tale of Arachne, a mortal skilled weaver who dared challenge Athena, ends in her metamorphosis into a spider. This story serves as a cautionary tale about hubris and respect for the gods, while also celebrating artistic skill. The myth of Narcissus, who falls in love with his own reflection and is transformed into a flower, explores the dangers of self-obsession and the ephemeral nature of beauty. These metamorphosis myths often carry dual meanings, punishment intertwined with new forms of existence, highlighting the fluid boundaries in Greek thought between human, nature, and divine. They also underscore a worldview where identity is mutable, and change is an ever-present force, reflecting life's impermanence and complexity. By engaging with these tales, we gain deeper insight into ancient Greek values and anxieties, their reverence for nature, and their understanding of the delicate balance between power, respect, and transformation. Through the lens of metamorphosis, Greek mythology reveals itself as a dynamic, living tradition, ever-evolving, endlessly rich, and profoundly human. Among the myriad figures in Greek mythology, the Titans hold a particularly fascinating place. These primordial deities, predecessors to the Olympian gods, symbolize the raw, elemental forces of the universe and represent an age of chaos and transformation that preceded the establishment of the divine order. The Titans were born from Gaia, Earth, and Uranus, sky, embodying vast cosmic principles. Cronus, their leader, famously overthrew his father Uranus, marking the first great divine upheaval. However, Cronus' reign was itself troubled by prophecy, as he feared being overthrown by his own children. To prevent this, he swallowed each at birth, but Zeus, saved by his mother Rhea, escaped this fate. This act of familial conflict set the stage for the Titanomachy, a monumental war between the Titans and the Olympian gods. For 10 years, these cosmic forces clashed, shaking the foundations of the universe. Ultimately, Zeus and his siblings triumphed, imprisoning the Titans in Tartarus, though some, like Oceanus, were spared. The Titanomachy represents the transition from primordial chaos to the ordered cosmos, a theme that echoes throughout myth and philosophy. It also reflects the ancient Greek worldview of cyclical struggle and renewal, where old powers give way to new ones in an ongoing dance of creation and destruction. Beyond Cronus, other Titans like Oceanus, Hyperion, and Mnemosyne played crucial roles. Mnemosyne, goddess of memory, was the mother of the Muses, linking the Titans to the arts and cultural legacy. The Titan stories, while less celebrated than those of the Olympians, offer profound insights into the Greek imagination's vast scope, from the cosmic origins of the world to the dynamics of power and change. They embody the ancient fascination with the forces that shape existence, both terrifying and necessary, and the hope that order and justice will ultimately prevail. Understanding the Titans enriches our grasp of Greek mythology's depth, illustrating how these ancient tales explore universal themes that continue to captivate and inspire. Greek mythology offers profound reflections on the nature of the soul and the afterlife, with complex beliefs that shaped how ancient Greeks understood death and what lies beyond. Unlike many later religious traditions, their vision of the afterlife was neither wholly bleak nor entirely blissful. It was nuanced, varied, and often tied to one's earthly life and deeds. The journey of the soul after death was believed to begin with its separation from the body, followed by its passage to the underworld, ruled by Hades. This realm was not simply a place of punishment, but a shadowy domain where most souls dwelled in a muted existence. The method of burial was crucial. Proper funerary rites ensured the soul's peaceful transition. Without them, the soul might become restless or trapped between worlds, a concept that underscored the importance of honoring the dead. Among the souls, some were granted special status. The virtuous or heroic might reside in the Elysian fields, a paradise of eternal spring and joy, while the wicked could be condemned to Tartarus for eternal torment. This distinction reflects early ideas of moral consequence after death. The concept of reincarnation also appears in certain traditions, suggesting that souls might return to the world in new bodies, continuing their journey toward purification or enlightenment. Orpheism, a mystery religion within ancient Greece, offered more detailed teachings about the soul's immortality and the possibility of liberation from the cycle of rebirth through purification and divine knowledge. The myths surrounding death and the soul also contain cautionary tales and moral lessons, emphasizing respect for the gods, proper conduct, and acceptance of life's impermanence. Through these beliefs, Greek mythology expresses a profound awareness of mortality and the mysteries beyond, inviting reflection on life, death, and what it means to be human. This ancient exploration of the soul's destiny continues to resonate, offering timeless questions about existence and the possibility of transcendence. In Greek mythology, the theme of divine retribution, or nemesis, pervades countless stories, reminding mortals and gods alike that hubris, or excessive pride, is a dangerous path that invites downfall. The gods, while powerful, were also guardians of balance and justice, ensuring that arrogance was met with fitting consequences. Nemesis herself, the goddess of retribution, embodied this principle. She maintained equilibrium by punishing those who overstepped bounds or acted with impiety. Her role was crucial in preserving the moral order, warning mortals that no one escapes the repercussions of their actions. Many myths illustrate this divine balance. The story of Niobe, who boasted of her superiority to the goddess Leto for having more children, ends tragically when Apollo and Artemis slay her offspring. Niobe's transformation into a weeping stone serves as a lasting symbol of the dangers of hubris. Similarly, the tale of King Pentheus, who mocked Dionysus and denied his divinity, concludes with his gruesome death, torn apart by frenzied Maenads. His refusal to respect the god's power underscores the consequences of impiety and disrespect. Even mighty heroes are not exempt. Achilles' pride, while a source of his strength, also leads to moments of vulnerability and loss, illustrating the fine line between confidence and arrogance. These narratives collectively teach that humility, reverence, and moderation are essential virtues. The gods' punishments are not arbitrary but serve as corrective forces restoring harmony. Moreover, the concept of hubris extends beyond individuals to societies and rulers, cautioning against tyranny and excess that threaten the community. Through stories of nemesis and hubris, Greek mythology conveys a powerful message about human limitations and the importance of respecting cosmic order. This ancient wisdom continues to resonate, reminding us that balance and humility are foundations of a just and sustainable life. Among the most intriguing aspects of Greek mythology is the intricate relationship between mortals and fate, governed by the Moirai, the three fates, who spun, measured, and cut the threads of human life. Their presence serves as a constant reminder that while mortals possess free will, the ultimate course of their lives is woven into an unalterable tapestry. Clotho, the spinner, begins life's thread, Lachesis, the alater, measures its length, and Atropos, the inexorable, severs it, marking death's arrival. No god, not even Zeus, could override their decisions, underscoring the profound respect and fear the Greeks held for fate's inevitability. The tension between fate and human action appears repeatedly in myths. For example, King Oedipus strives to avoid the prophecy that he will kill his father and marry his mother, only to fulfill it through his very efforts. This tragic irony highlights the futility of resisting destiny. Yet, myths also celebrate human courage in confronting fate. Heroes like Achilles understand their destined early death, but choose glory over longevity, embodying the heroic ideal. The concept of Moira extends beyond individual fate to the order of the cosmos, ensuring that balance is maintained. The gods themselves are subject to these laws, bound by the cosmic order that even they cannot break. This worldview teaches acceptance of life's uncertainties and limitations, while valuing the dignity found in choice and action within those bounds. In contemplating fate, Greek mythology offers timeless reflections on free will, destiny, and the human spirit's resilience. It reminds us that while some aspects of life are beyond control, the courage to face one's past shapes meaning and legacy. Another profound theme woven through Greek mythology is the concept of transformation, not merely physical metamorphosis, but profound psychological and spiritual change. These myths explore how encounters with the divine, suffering, or profound experiences alter individuals, revealing deeper truths about identity and existence. Take the story of Tiresias, the blind prophet who uniquely experienced life as both male and female. According to myth, Tiresias was transformed into a woman for 7 years after striking 2 mating snakes, then reverted back to a man after a similar encounter. His unusual journey granted him unique insights into human nature and divine mysteries, but also isolation. Tiresias' blindness, often interpreted symbolically, represents the paradox of prophetic vision. Though physically sightless, he perceives truths hidden to others. His role in tragedies such as Oedipus Rex and Antigone underscores the complex interplay between knowledge, fate, and suffering. Similarly, the myth of Psyche's trials and eventual deification reflects a journey of transformation from mortal vulnerability to divine immortality, achieved through love, perseverance, and acceptance. These stories reflect Greek understanding of life as a process of continuous change. Through hardship and enlightenment, identity evolves. Transformation in myth also serves to explain the origins of customs, natural phenomena, and human traits, embedding cultural meaning into stories. Moreover, such myths offer comfort and hope, suggesting that suffering can lead to growth, wisdom, or even transcendence. In these narratives, transformation is both literal and metaphorical, a symbol of the human condition's fluidity and the potential for renewal. Greek mythology thus invites us to contemplate our own capacity for change, resilience, and the pursuit of deeper understanding. The divine pantheon of Greek mythology is not only a collection of powerful gods, but also a reflection of human nature, with deities exhibiting a vast range of emotions, ambitions, and flaws. Their interactions with each other and with mortals form a complex web of relationships that highlight the intricate dynamics of power, love, jealousy, and rivalry. Take the rivalry between Hera and Zeus, a marriage fraught with tension despite their divine status. Hera's jealousy over Zeus's numerous affairs led to endless schemes against his mortal lovers and their children. This divine domestic strife mirrors human complexities, providing insight into the gods' relatable yet elevated struggles. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, often acted as protector of heroes like Odysseus and Perseus, guiding them through challenges with her intellect and strategy. Her virginity symbolizes purity and focus, yet her fierce nature exemplifies the balance of wisdom and strength. Poseidon, god of the sea, was both revered and feared for his tempestuous moods. His rivalry with Athena for the patronage of Athens ended with his defeat, highlighting the theme of competition among gods influencing human fate. Aphrodite's influence extended beyond love and beauty. Her power could cause chaos and war, as seen in the events leading to the Trojan War when Paris awarded her the golden apple, sparking a chain reaction of divine and mortal conflict. These divine personalities, with their triumphs and failings, humanize the gods, making them accessible and instructive models. Their stories teach lessons about virtues and vices, the consequences of actions, and the delicate balance of relationships. Through these interactions, Greek mythology paints a portrait of a cosmos alive with passion, conflict, and creativity, a world where gods reflect humanity's best and worst. This divine drama offers timeless narratives that resonate because they explore the complexities inherent in power, love, and fate. The divine pantheon of Greek mythology is not only a collection of powerful gods, but also a reflection of human nature, with deities exhibiting a vast range of emotions, ambitions, and flaws. Their interactions with each other and with mortals form a complex web of relationships that highlight the intricate dynamics of power, love, jealousy, and rivalry. Take the rivalry between Hera and Zeus, a marriage fraught with tension despite their divine status. Hera's jealousy over Zeus's numerous affairs led to endless schemes against his mortal lovers and their children. This divine domestic strife mirrors human complexities, providing insight into the gods' relatable yet elevated struggles. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, often acted as protector of heroes like Odysseus and Perseus, guiding them through challenges with her intellect and strategy. Her virginity symbolizes purity and focus, yet her fierce nature exemplifies the balance of wisdom and strength. Poseidon, god of the sea, was both revered and feared for his tempestuous moods. His rivalry with Athena for the patronage of Athens ended with his defeat, highlighting the theme of competition among gods influencing human fate. Aphrodite's influence extended beyond love and beauty. Her power could cause chaos and war, as seen in the events leading to the Trojan War when Paris awarded her the Golden Apple, sparking a chain reaction of divine and mortal conflict. These divine personalities, with their triumphs and failings, humanize the gods, making them accessible and instructive models. Their stories teach lessons about virtues and vices, the consequences of actions, and the delicate balance of relationships. Through these interactions, Greek mythology paints a portrait of a cosmos alive with passion, conflict, and creativity, a world where gods reflect humanity's best and worst. This divine drama offers timeless narratives that resonate because they explore the complexities inherent in power, love, and fate. Greek mythology intricately ties the concept of prophecy to the inexorable unfolding of fate, weaving narratives where foreknowledge shapes actions and often seals destinies. The oracles, especially the famous Oracle of Delphi, played a central role in ancient Greek society, serving as conduits through which the gods communicated their will. The Pythia, the priestess at Delphi, entered trance-like states to deliver cryptic prophecies that guided kings, generals, and common folk alike. These pronouncements, often ambiguous and paradoxical, demanded careful interpretation, reflecting the Greeks' nuanced understanding of destiny's complexity. Stories abound where attempts to circumvent prophecy inadvertently bring it to fruition. For example, Laius and Jocasta, warned that their son Oedipus would kill his father and marry his mother, tried to prevent the fate by abandoning him. Yet, Oedipus' actions, driven by ignorance, fulfilled a tragic prophecy, illustrating the paradox of fate's power. Similarly, King Croesus sought the oracle's advice before waging war, receiving a prediction that if he crossed the river, he would destroy a great empire, only to realize too late it was his own. These myths underscore the tension between human agency and divine will, exploring how knowledge of the future influences decisions, often with unintended consequences. Prophecy in Greek thought is not deterministic fatalism, but a complex interaction where free will operates within bounds set by destiny. The reverence for oracles reflects the ancient desire to glimpse the unknown, to prepare for the uncertain, and to seek harmony with cosmic order. Through prophecy, Greek mythology invites contemplation on the limits of human control, the mystery of time, and the delicate balance between knowledge and power. Greek mythology is rich with tales of monsters and fantastical creatures, each embodying fears, challenges, or natural forces, and serving as formidable adversaries to gods and heroes. These beings not only provide thrilling narratives, but also symbolize deeper cultural anxieties and moral lessons. The Hydra, a serpent-like monster with multiple heads, epitomizes the idea of a problem that grows worse when attacked. When Heracles faced the Hydra during his 12 labors, cutting off one head only caused 2 more to grow. This challenge required ingenuity, as Heracles burned each neck stump to prevent regrowth. The Hydra symbolizes resilience of evil, and the need for wisdom in overcoming it. The Chimera, a fire-breathing creature composed of lion, goat, and serpent parts, represents chaos and unnatural hybridity. Bellerophon's quest to slay the Chimera, aided by the winged horse Pegasus, underscores themes of courage, divine aid, and the triumph of order over chaos. The Sphinx, with a woman's head and lion's body, posed riddles to travelers, devouring those who failed to answer. Oedipus' solving of the Sphinx's riddle symbolizes human intelligence overcoming mystery and danger. Monsters, like the Minotaur and Medusa, also serve as embodiments of exile, otherness, and danger lurking at civilization's edges. Their defeat by heroes represents the assertion of human order and bravery against the unknown. These creatures enrich mythology by personifying complex ideas, fear, danger, and the struggle between chaos and civilization. They challenge heroes not only physically but symbolically, requiring wit, strength, and courage. By facing these monsters, heroes affirm human resilience and the quest to master the world's dangers, both external and internal. Greek mythology thus uses monsters to explore fundamental themes of struggle, transformation, and the boundary between humanity and the unknown. Imagine a world where every shadow might conceal a beast, and every whisper of the wind carries the echo of ancient curses. Greek mythology, with its terrifying monsters and daring heroes, captures this tension between fear and courage, between the known and the unknown. Take the tale of the terrifying Medusa, once a beautiful maiden whose fate was twisted by the goddess Athena's wrath. Medusa's hair turned into venomous snakes, and her gaze became a deadly weapon, turning any who met her eyes to stone. Yet her story is far more than that of a monster. It's a tragic narrative about punishment, transformation, and misunderstood power. Perseus, the hero destined to slay Medusa, embarked on a quest filled with divine gifts: winged sandals from Hermes, a reflective shield from Athena, and an adamantine sword. Navigating perilous landscapes and using cunning rather than brute force, Perseus approached Medusa not head-on, but by looking at her reflection, turning her own power against her. This clever strategy emphasizes intelligence over mere strength, a recurring theme in Greek myths. But the consequences didn't end there. From Medusa's severed neck sprang Pegasus, the magnificent winged horse, and Chrysaor, a giant wielding a golden sword, creatures born from death and destruction, symbolizing unexpected creation from chaos. Meanwhile, the Minotaur, a monstrous half-man, half-bull trapped within the labyrinth's twisting maze, represents the darkness lurking beneath civilization. King Minos of Crete commissioned the labyrinth to imprison this beast, a living nightmare spawned from divine punishment and human hubris. Theseus, the hero who volunteered to enter the labyrinth, did not face the monster alone. Armed with Ariadne's thread, a lifeline through the maze, he navigated the impossible, showcasing the power of guidance and perseverance. These stories resonate because they blend horror with hope, terror with triumph. Monsters symbolize internal and external fears, while heroes embody the human spirit's capacity to confront and overcome them. Moreover, Greek myths never shy away from the consequences of violence. Slaying a monster is not merely victory, but the opening of new mysteries and challenges. The hero's journeys are fraught with sacrifice, loss, and the haunting awareness that darkness is never fully defeated. In this eternal dance between fear and courage, Greek mythology invites us to explore our own shadows and strengths, reminding us that true heroism lies not just in might, but in wit, resilience, and heart. Greek mythology paints vivid pictures of love in all its dazzling, devastating forms, passionate and pure, obsessive and destructive. The gods themselves are deeply entwined with love, often meddling in mortal affairs, weaving tales that capture the complexity of desire, jealousy, and sacrifice. Eros, the mischievous god of love, wielded his arrows with reckless abandon, sparking affection and chaos alike. His power was absolute yet unpredictable, reminding mortals that love is a force beyond reason, capable of inspiring both creation and destruction. Consider the tragic tale of Orpheus and Eurydice, a story of love transcending death. Orpheus, a gifted musician whose melodies could charm even stones, descended into the underworld to reclaim his beloved Eurydice. His journey was a testament to devotion and hope, yet fate intervened at the final moment. Orpheus, succumbing to doubt, glanced back, losing Eurydice forever. This poignant narrative explores love's power and fragility, the thin line between hope and despair. In contrast, the story of Phaeton reflects reckless passion's dangers. The son of Helios, the sun god, Phaeton begged to drive his father's chariot across the sky. Despite warnings, his youthful hubris led to chaos and destruction, culminating in his tragic fall. This myth speaks to the fiery intensity of desire, and the consequences of overreaching. The love stories of gods often carry dark undertones. Zeus's numerous affairs cause strife and tragedy, while Hera's jealous vengeance sparked cycles of suffering. Aphrodite's allure could enchant and ensnare, as seen in the tale of Adonis, whose beauty captivated gods and mortals alike, yet whose life was brutally cut short. These narratives reveal love's multifaceted nature, its capacity to inspire art, courage, and transformation, but also jealousy, loss, and pain. Greek mythology captures love's dizzying heights and crushing depths, inviting reflection on the human heart's mysteries. It reminds us that love is a force to be revered and feared, a divine power that shapes destinies and defines humanity. Greek mythology reveals a world where gods and mortals often blur the lines between fate and free will, weaving stories that explore human choices amid divine decrees. These myths serve as profound explorations of morality, consequence, and the human condition. Consider the tale of Prometheus, the titan who defied Zeus by stealing fire and giving it to humanity, a gift symbolizing knowledge and empowerment. This act of rebellion empowered mankind but came with severe punishment. Prometheus was chained to a rock, where an eagle eternally devoured his regenerating liver. His story underscores the tension between divine authority and human ambition, highlighting the costs of challenging cosmic order for the sake of progress. Similarly, the tragedy of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun with waxen wings crafted by his father Daedalus, illustrates youthful recklessness and the perils of overambition. Icarus's fall serves as a cautionary tale about balance and heedfulness in the face of boundless desire. The interplay of fate and choice surfaces vividly in the saga of Oedipus, whose efforts to evade a horrific prophecy inadvertently fulfill it. This paradox raises timeless questions about destiny, self-knowledge, and responsibility. Myths like these compel us to ponder the limits of human control and the consequences of our actions, suggesting that wisdom lies in recognizing these boundaries. Moreover, Greek mythology frequently depicts gods as both facilitators and challengers of human agency, sometimes granting gifts and guidance, other times imposing trials to teach humility or enforce justice. This dynamic paints a complex moral landscape where humans navigate between autonomy and submission, striving for greatness while confronting inherent limitations. Through these timeless stories, Greek mythology offers rich reflections on the eternal human struggle to find meaning and make choices within the grand tapestry of fate. In Greek mythology, the sea is not just a vast expanse of water, but a powerful, unpredictable realm ruled by gods, monsters, and spirits. The ocean represents both the source of life and the embodiment of danger, mystery, and transformation. Poseidon, the formidable god of the sea, wielded his trident to calm waves or unleash devastating storms. His temperament was as changeable as the sea itself, benevolent to sailors who honored him, yet wrathful when insulted. The ancient Greeks, deeply reliant on maritime trade and travel, revered Poseidon's power, acknowledging the ocean's crucial role in their survival and prosperity. Myths abound of sea creatures embodying the ocean's perilous nature. The sirens, with their enchanting songs, lured sailors to destruction on rocky shores. Odysseus famously resisted their call by having his men plug their ears with beeswax and binding himself to the mast, a testament to human ingenuity against temptation. Scylla and Charybdis, monstrous inhabitants of a narrow strait, posed a deadly choice for passing ships. Navigating between these dangers became a metaphor for facing impossible decisions, symbolizing the tension between risks and survival. The story of the sea god Triton, Poseidon's son, highlights the blend of human and marine forms in mythology, often depicted with a conch shell trumpet that could calm or stir the waters. These tales reflect the ancient Greeks' respect and fear of the sea's dual nature, life-giving yet treacherous. The ocean's mysteries. from unexplored depths to monstrous inhabitants, inspired awe and caution, shaping cultural attitudes toward nature's power. Through myths of the sea, Greek mythology captures humanity's complex relationship with the natural world, highlighting themes of respect, courage, and the unknown. The sea remains a potent symbol of change, adventure, and the eternal dance between humanity and the elements. Greek mythology is rich with tales of divine craftspeople and inventors, highlighting the human fascination with creativity, skill, and the fine line between ingenuity and hubris. These figures often bridge the mortal and divine worlds, crafting objects of immense power and beauty. Daedalus, the master inventor and architect, is perhaps the most famous. Renowned for designing the labyrinth that housed the Minotaur, his story is one of brilliance tinged with tragedy. When imprisoned by King Minos, Daedalus fashioned wings made of feathers and wax to escape with his son Icarus. This daring flight ended in disaster when Icarus flew too close to the sun, a poignant reminder of the limits of human ambition. Hephaestus, the god of fire and craftsmanship, created magnificent weapons and artifacts for gods and heroes alike. His forge, located beneath volcanoes, symbolized both creative power and destructive potential. Despite his physical imperfections and exile from Olympus, Hephaestus's creations, such as Achilles' armor and Hermes' winged sandals, were crucial in mythic tales, emphasizing the value of skill and perseverance. Similarly, the myth of Pandora, crafted by Hephaestus and other gods, introduces the theme of curiosity and unintended consequences. Pandora's box, or jar, released evils upon humanity, yet also hope remained inside, reflecting the dual nature of creation and discovery. The stories of these divine artisans celebrate human creativity while cautioning against overreaching pride. They illustrate how invention can be a double-edged sword, capable of both advancing civilization and bringing unforeseen hardship. Through these narratives, Greek mythology explores the complex relationship between innovation, responsibility, and fate, echoing enduring questions about the power and limits of human ingenuity. The rich tapestry of Greek mythology also weaves in the mysterious realm of the Underworld, a shadowy domain ruled by Hades, where souls journey after death, and where the boundaries between life and death blur in haunting ways. The Underworld is not a mere place of gloom, but a complex realm with diverse regions, guardians, and myths that reveal ancient Greek attitudes toward mortality and the afterlife. At its gates stands Cerberus, the fearsome three-headed dog, whose vigilance prevents the dead from escaping and the living from entering without permission. Cerberus symbolizes the impenetrable barrier between worlds, emphasizing the finality of death and the sacredness of this boundary. Within the Underworld lie distinct areas, each with its own character. The Elysian Fields offer rest and reward for heroes and the virtuous, a place of eternal peace and happiness. In contrast, Tartarus is a deep abyss reserved for punishment, where titans and the wicked endure eternal torment. The Asphodel Meadows are home to ordinary souls, drifting in a shadowy existence neither joyful nor punishing. Myths recount various journeys into the underworld, often undertaken by heroes or gods seeking knowledge, redemption, or reunion with loved ones. Orpheus's descent to retrieve Eurydice is one of the most poignant, illustrating love's power and the tragic limits imposed by fate. Heracles' 12th labor, to capture Cerberus, symbolizes a confrontation with death itself, showcasing courage and endurance. The river Styx, across which souls are ferried by Charon, embodies the passage between life and death, with rituals ensuring proper fare. Failure to honor these customs risked restless spirits. The underworld myths reflect complex beliefs about death's inevitability and the hope for justice or reward beyond mortal life. They serve both as moral lessons and as ways to comprehend the mysteries that surrounded death. In their vivid imagery and profound symbolism, These stories offer timeless reflections on mortality, the soul's journey, and the human desire for meaning beyond the veil. Greek mythology's influence stretches far beyond ancient times, echoing through centuries in art, literature, philosophy, and even modern culture. The myths, while rooted in antiquity, remain remarkably relevant, offering insight into human nature and inspiring countless reinterpretations. The Renaissance revived Greek myths, celebrating classical ideals and weaving mythological themes into paintings, sculptures, and literature. Artists like Botticelli immortalized figures such as Venus and Apollo, blending beauty with symbolic depth. Philosophers like Plato engaged with myths, sometimes interpreting them allegorically to explore truths about reality, the soul, and ethics. Myths became tools for contemplation, bridging mythic storytelling and philosophical inquiry. In literature, authors from Shakespeare to James Joyce drew upon Greek myths, reimagining heroes and tragedies to reflect contemporary human struggles. The universal themes, love, power, fate, hubris, resonate across cultures and epochs. Modern media, from films and novels to video games and comics, continues to adapt and reinvent these stories, demonstrating their enduring appeal and versatility. Moreover, Greek mythology provides language and symbols that enrich communication. Terms like Achilles' heel, Pandora's box, and Herculean task are woven into everyday speech, testifying to their lasting impact. The myths also offer moral and psychological archetypes that remain relevant in understanding ourselves and society. In education, Greek mythology serves as a gateway to exploring history, literature, and art, fostering critical thinking and cultural awareness. By tracing the journey of these ancient tales into the present, we recognize mythology as a living tradition, one that evolves, inspires, and challenges us to confront the eternal questions of existence. Greek mythology invites us not only to marvel at fantastical stories, but to engage with the profound human experiences they reflect. Picture a world where gods walked among mortals, cities thrived under divine protection, and stories whispered through olive groves and bustling marketplaces. Greek mythology is not just a collection of grand epics. It is the heartbeat of everyday life in ancient Greece, its festivals, its beliefs, its very essence. One of the most extraordinary celebrations was the Eleusinian Mysteries, secret rites honoring Demeter and Persephone, mother and daughter, whose myth embodies the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Initiates underwent sacred ceremonies promising deeper understanding of life's mysteries and the promise of a blessed afterlife. The mysteries were shrouded in secrecy. Only those sworn to silence could partake, but their influence on spirituality and communal identity was profound. Life in ancient Greece was a blend of the mundane and the divine. Farmers sowed crops praying to Demeter for fertile fields. Sailors invoked Poseidon for safe passage. Lovers called upon Aphrodite to kindle passion. The gods were woven into the fabric of daily existence, from the food eaten, simple bread, olives, and wine, to the stories told at firesides. The agora, or marketplace, buzzed not only with commerce but with storytelling, where poets recited epic tales, and citizens debated philosophy and politics, all under the watchful gaze of patron deities. Athletic contests, such as those in Olympia, were not mere sport but acts of worship, where excellence honored the gods and united city-states in friendly rivalry. Even the theater, born from Dionysian festivals, combined entertainment with profound exploration of human nature and fate, challenging audiences to reflect on their own lives. This intimate intertwining of myth and reality gave ancient Greeks a rich cultural tapestry where every stone, river, and mountain bore sacred significance. Understanding Greek mythology is thus to step into a vibrant world where the divine and human danced endlessly, where every story was a lesson, every ritual a bridge, and every day a chance to connect with something greater. This living mythology, pulsating through the rhythms of ancient life, continues to echo in our own, reminding us of the timeless power of story to shape meaning and belonging. Amidst the grand narratives of gods and heroes, Greek mythology also reveals a fascinating world of the supernatural and the uncanny, where spirits, demons, and magical beings blurred the lines between life and death, natural and supernatural. The Greeks believed in a rich undercurrent of spirits that inhabited forests, rivers, and even homes. Nymphs, beautiful, often immortal maidens, guarded springs, trees, and mountains. They were both benevolent and capricious, inspiring poets and warning travelers. The naiads of freshwater, dryads of the trees, and oreads of the mountains formed a vibrant ecosystem of nature spirits deeply intertwined with the environment. Chthonic deities and spirits represented the darker, mysterious aspects of the world beneath the earth. Hecate, goddess of magic and crossroads, held sway over ghosts and witchcraft, her presence felt in twilight and in the shadows where mortals dared not tread. The concept of daimons, spirits or lesser divine beings, pervaded Greek thought. These entities could be protectors or harbingers of doom, embodying forces of fate, fortune, or misfortune. Mythological tales often included interactions with such beings, highlighting the thin veils separating mortal reality from realms beyond. Heroes might receive guidance or warnings from prophetic spirits, or confront malevolent entities guarding sacred treasures. Magic and sorcery also played a role. Figures like Circe and Medea wielded powerful spells, capable of transforming men into animals or summoning storms. Their stories reveal the ambivalence toward magic, both feared and revered, a force that could alter destinies. These supernatural elements enriched Greek mythology with layers of mystery, terror, and wonder, reflecting human attempts to explain the unexplainable. They also underscore a worldview where humans coexist with unseen powers, requiring respect, caution, and sometimes courage to navigate. Through encounters with spirits and magic, Greek myths invite us to explore the unknown territories of existence, the liminal spaces where the natural and supernatural meet. The myths of ancient Greece do not merely recount heroic feats and divine dramas. They also confront profound questions about justice, law, and society's foundations. The concept of dike, or justice, was central to Greek thought, shaping both human communities and divine interactions. The gods themselves were expected to uphold a cosmic justice, balancing mercy with punishment. Zeus, as king of the gods, was the ultimate arbiter, wielding his thunderbolt to enforce order and punish wrongdoing. His justice was not capricious, but rooted in maintaining harmony and punishing hubris, excessive pride, or disrespect toward the divine. Human law was seen as an extension of this divine order. Myths often depict rulers and heroes grappling with the tensions between personal desires, divine will, and societal norms. The tragic story of Antigone, who defies King Creon's decree to bury her brother, explores the conflict between human law and higher moral law, questioning what true justice entails. The Erinyes, or Furies, personify relentless justice, pursuing those who commit crimes such as murder or betrayal. Their relentless vengeance serves as a warning that moral transgressions cannot be escaped. Trials and judgments by gods and mortals alike illustrate the importance of fairness, wisdom, and balance. The Judgment of Paris, which sparked the Trojan War, reveals how subjective choices can have far-reaching consequences. These stories reflect an ancient society deeply concerned with justice, responsibility, and the consequences of actions, concepts that continue to resonate today. Through the lens of myth, Greek culture explored the complexities of law and morality, highlighting that justice is not merely punishment, but the foundation of order and coexistence. This enduring legacy reminds us that myths are not just ancient tales, but living reflections on ethics, governance, and human values. As we delve deeper into Greek mythology, it becomes clear that the concept of heroism is multifaceted. Heroes are not merely warriors, but complex figures embodying virtues, flaws, and the human struggle for meaning. Their stories transcend mere adventure, probing questions of identity, sacrifice, and legacy. Heroes like Heracles, Perseus, and Jason undertake monumental quests, battling monsters and overcoming divine challenges. Their feats symbolize the human spirit's triumph over chaos and adversity. Yet their journeys are marked by pain, loss, and moral ambiguity, revealing that heroism is as much about endurance and growth as victory. Heracles, celebrated for his strength, also wrestled with inner demons. Madness sent by Hera led to tragic mistakes, reminding us that heroes are fallible. His 12 labors were not only physical trials, but rites of purification and redemption. Perseus' cleverness in defeating Medusa shows that intelligence complements bravery, emphasizing adaptability as key to survival. Jason's quest for the Golden Fleece involves betrayal and heartbreak, illustrating that heroism often involves difficult choices and personal sacrifice. Greek heroes often stand at the crossroads of mortal and divine, their fates intertwined with God's whims and cosmic forces. Their stories highlight the tension between free will and destiny, courage and vulnerability. Moreover, heroes served as cultural exemplars, inspiring values like honor, loyalty, and perseverance, while their flaws provided cautionary lessons. These narratives continue to resonate because they mirror the complexities of human life. Our triumphs and failures, hopes and fears. Through their timeless tales, Greek mythology invites us to reflect on what it means to be heroic, not just in grand deeds, but in the everyday courage to face life's challenges. In the grand narratives of Greek mythology, the theme of war looms large. Epic battles that shaped not only the gods' fates, but the very destiny of humanity. The Trojan War, immortalized in Homer's Iliad, stands as the quintessential saga of conflict, heroism, and tragedy. This legendary war began with a divine dispute, the judgment of Paris, where the mortal prince chose Aphrodite as the fairest goddess, winning the promise of the most beautiful woman, Helen of Sparta. Her abduction sparked a decade-long siege of Troy, pitting mighty warriors and gods against each other. The war was more than a clash of armies. It was a stage for exploring honor, pride, love, and revenge. Heroes like Achilles, whose wrath shapes the course of the conflict, grappled with personal glory versus communal duty. Hector, the noble defender of Troy, embodied courage and loyalty to his city and family. The gods took sides, intervening directly or through subtle influence, their rivalries mirroring those of mortals. Athena's favor for the Greeks contrasted with Aphrodite's support of the Trojans, adding layers of divine intrigue to human suffering. The Trojan horse, a cunning stratagem, led to Troy's downfall, symbolizing deception's role in war and the fragility of victory. Yet the aftermath was marked by sorrow and displacement. Survivors like Aeneas, destined to found Rome, carried forward the legacy of war's consequences. This epic encapsulates the paradox of war, heroic deeds intertwined with loss and devastation. Greek mythology uses the Trojan War to delve into themes of fate, justice, and the human cost of conflict. Its enduring power lies in its rich characters, moral complexity, and the universal resonance of its lessons. By revisiting these stories, we confront the timeless realities of war, the valor it demands, and the tragedy it leaves behind. Beyond the grand epics and divine dramas, Greek mythology also paints vivid portraits of mortals whose fates were shaped by love, ambition, and the gods' whims, offering intimate glimpses into human vulnerability and resilience. Take the story of Psyche, a mortal woman of extraordinary beauty who captivated Aphrodite's son, Eros, Cupid. Their love was tested by trials and misunderstandings, including Psyche's forbidden glance upon Eros' hidden face. leading to separation and hardship. Yet through perseverance and divine intervention, Psyche was granted immortality, symbolizing the soul's journey towards eternal love and union. Similarly, the myth of Ceres and Alcyone tells of love transcending death. When Ceres drowned at sea, Alcyone's grief moved the gods to transform them into halcyon birds, whose nesting calms the winter sea, a poetic explanation for natural phenomena and a testament to love's enduring power. These tales emphasize themes of trust, sacrifice, and transformation, illustrating how mortal experiences reflect universal truths. Greek myths also explore the fragility of human existence, as seen in the tragic figures of Icarus, whose youthful daring leads to downfall, or Niobe, whose pride brings devastating loss. Mortals often stand at the crossroads of divine intervention and personal choice, embodying the tension between fate and free will. Through their joys and sorrows, these stories offer profound insights into the human condition, framed by the eternal dance of gods and men. They remind us that beneath the grandeur of myths lie the intimate struggles and hopes that define humanity. Greek mythology thus bridges the cosmic and the personal, crafting narratives that continue to resonate across time. The ancient Greeks believed that the very world around them was alive with divine presence. Mountains, rivers, trees, and even celestial bodies carried spiritual significance. This sacred geography shaped myths that explained natural phenomena and connected people to their environment. Mount Olympus, the towering home of the gods, was more than a physical place. It symbolized divine authority and the intersection between heaven and earth. Its lofty peaks, often shrouded in mist, evoke mystery and reverence. Rivers such as the Styx and Acheron mark the boundaries between life and death, their flowing waters embodying transitions and thresholds. Naiads and river gods personified these waterways, nurturing lands yet capable of wrath. The olive tree, sacred to Athena, was a symbol of peace and prosperity, its cultivation central to Greek economy and culture. Myths surrounding its origin reinforced values of wisdom and civilization. Volcanoes, linked to Hephaestus's forge, represented both creation and destruction, fire that could both build and annihilate. Natural landmarks inspired stories explaining their origins, like the petrification of Medusa's victims or the creation of the labyrinth on Crete, blending observation with imagination. This integration of nature and myth created a world where every rock and stream carried stories, infusing daily life with sacred meaning. Understanding this sacred landscape reveals how mythology served as a lens for ancient Greeks to interpret their world, connect with the divine, and find place within the cosmos. It also highlights humanity's enduring impulse to tell stories that make sense of the natural world, weaving fact and fantasy into a living tapestry of meaning. Delving deeper into Greek mythology, one cannot ignore the vital role of women, not only as goddesses, but as mortal figures whose strength, wisdom, and complexity shaped countless stories. These women challenge stereotypes and embody a spectrum of power, vulnerability, and agency. Goddesses like Athena defy simple categorization. As the virgin goddess of wisdom, strategy, and crafts, she represents intellect and disciplined strength. Her birth, emerging fully armed from Zeus's head, symbolizes the triumph of mind over matter. Athena's guidance to heroes and cities underscores her role as protector and patron of civilization. Artemis, goddess of the hunt and wilderness, embodies independence and fierce protection of nature and women. Her refusal to be tamed reflects a wild, untamed spirit, offering an alternative vision of femininity that celebrates autonomy. Yet myths also explore the consequences of challenging divine or social norms. The tragic tale of Niobe, who boasted of her children's superiority over Letos, leads to the loss of her offspring and eternal grief, a cautionary story about pride and hubris. Mortal women like Medea wield immense power through knowledge and magic, Yet their stories often end in betrayal and exile, highlighting tensions between gender, power, and society. Persephone's dual role as queen of the underworld and goddess of springtime embodies cycles of death and rebirth, reflecting nature's rhythms and the complexities of womanhood. These narratives reveal that women in Greek mythology are multifaceted, capable of nurturing and destruction, wisdom and wrath, victimhood and agency. They serve as mirrors reflecting societal values, fears, and aspirations, while their stories resonate with timeless themes of identity, resilience, and transformation. Through these rich portrayals, Greek mythology invites us to explore the many faces of femininity and the enduring human stories they embody. Among the many figures that populate Greek mythology, the Muses hold a special place as divine inspirers of art, poetry, and knowledge. These 9 goddesses, daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, embody the creative forces that ignite human imagination and intellect. Each muse presides over a distinct domain. Calliope governs epic poetry, Clio records history, Erato inspires love poetry, and others oversee music, dance, tragedy, and astronomy. Together, they represent the broad spectrum of cultural expression. Ancient Greeks believed that artistic and intellectual pursuits were gifts from the gods, with the Muses acting as intermediaries between the divine and mortal realms. Poets and artists would invoke the Muses at the start of their works, seeking inspiration and guidance. The influence of the Muses extends beyond myth into everyday life. Festivals celebrated them, and temples and sanctuaries were dedicated in their honor, emphasizing the sacredness of creativity. Stories also highlight the tension between inspired genius and human limitation. The myth of Perseus, who dared to challenge Apollo in a musical contest, ends in tragedy, illustrating the dangers of hubris in the arts. The Muses' presence in myth underscores the ancient understanding that creativity is both divine blessing and human endeavor, a bridge connecting mortal experience with timeless truths. Through the Muses, Greek mythology elevates the arts as essential to society's soul, fostering beauty, wisdom, and connection. Their enduring legacy reminds us that inspiration remains a mysterious, powerful force driving human expression across ages. As we journey further into Greek mythology, the realm of dreams and prophecy emerges as a fascinating intersection of the mortal and divine, where the future is glimpsed through visions and signs, and sleep becomes a gateway to hidden knowledge. Morpheus, the god of dreams, had the power to shape the dreams of mortals, sending messages that ranged from comforting illusions to ominous warnings. His role highlights the ancient Greek belief that dreams were not mere fantasies, but vital communications from the gods or the subconscious. Oracles, such as the famed Oracle of Delphi, acted as mediators of divine prophecy. Pilgrims traveled great distances to consult the Pythia, who delivered enigmatic pronouncements. These prophecies influenced decisions of kings and commoners alike, weaving fate into the fabric of history. Yet the ambiguous nature of prophecy often led to tragic irony. The story of King Croesus, who misinterpreted the oracle's words and launched a doomed war, underscores the perils of misunderstanding fate's messages. Greek mythology also features Hypnos, the personification of sleep, and his twin brother Thanatos, god of death, symbols of the thin line between rest and eternal slumber. These myths convey that dreams and prophecies occupy a liminal space, bridging conscious life and the mysteries beyond. They serve as reminders of human vulnerability, the quest for knowledge, and the acceptance of destiny. The fascination with dreams and foresight reflects a timeless human desire to peer beyond the veil, to find meaning in the uncertain, and to navigate life with wisdom. Through these stories, Greek mythology offers profound insights into how ancient cultures understood the unseen realms influencing mortal fate. In the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, the concept of hospitality, or xenia, was sacred. A divine code binding hosts and guests in mutual respect and generosity, reflecting broader values of community and civilization. The gods themselves enforced Xenia, punishing those who violated this sacred trust. Tales abound of mortals receiving divine visitors disguised as strangers, testing their hospitality and kindness. One of the most famous examples is the story of Baucis and Philemon, an elderly couple who, despite poverty, welcomed Zeus and Hermes disguised as travelers. Their generosity was rewarded with transformation into intertwined trees, symbolizing eternal love and hospitality. Conversely, the brutal fate of the suitors in Homer's Odyssey illustrates the consequences of abusing a host's home and violating Xenia. Their greed and disrespect bring ruin upon them. The practice of hospitality was vital in a world where travel was perilous, and social bonds were crucial for survival. It extended beyond mere kindness, encompassing protection, respect, and the sacred obligation to aid those in need. Myths highlight Xenia as a cornerstone of moral and social order, emphasizing that kindness to strangers reflects a civilization's true character. These stories remind us that hospitality is not just a social custom, but a sacred duty, fostering trust and community. In an era where ancient roads connected distant lands, Xenia bridged cultural divides, weaving a network of mutual respect sustained by divine oversight. Through these narratives, Greek mythology underscores the profound human need for connection, kindness, and the recognition of shared humanity. Amidst the pantheon of Greek gods and the tapestry of myths lies the compelling theme of transformation, metamorphosis, where gods and mortals alike undergo profound physical and spiritual changes. These transformations reveal the mutable nature of existence and the interplay between punishment, mercy, and identity. Ovid's Metamorphoses, though Roman, draws heavily on Greek mythic tradition, chronicling countless tales where humans become animals, plants, or stars. These stories serve as symbolic explorations of change, consequence, and the inescapable flow of time. Take Daphne, who, fleeing Apollo's relentless pursuit, was transformed into a laurel tree by her father, a river god. This metamorphosis preserves her purity, while forever linking her to Apollo, who adopts the laurel as a sacred symbol. Similarly, the story of Arachne, a talented mortal weaver who dared to challenge Athena, ends with her transformation into a spider, forever weaving webs, a cautionary tale about pride and the limits of mortal defiance. Other transformations reflect divine punishment or protection. Niobe's endless weeping after losing her children leads to her becoming a stone, symbolizing eternal grief. Conversely, Zeus often transformed lovers into animals or stars to save or conceal them. These narratives illustrate that identity in Greek mythology is fluid, and transformation is both a literal and metaphorical device exploring themes of escape, punishment, immortality, and memory. Through metamorphosis, myths confront the tension between change and permanence, revealing deep truths about human experience and the divine's power. They invite reflection on the nature of self, the consequences of actions, and the enduring impact of mythic stories that shape cultural consciousness. Greek mythology is also steeped in stories of cunning and trickery, celebrating the clever mind's triumph over brute strength and the unexpected twists that intelligence can bring. The figure of Hermes, the fleet-footed messenger god, epitomizes wit and resourcefulness, embodying the playful and sometimes mischievous aspects of divine intervention. From his earliest moments, Hermes demonstrated his cunning. Legend tells that as a newborn, he stole Apollo's sacred cattle, cleverly disguising their tracks and inventing the lyre from a tortoise shell to placate the offended god. This myth captures the essence of wit as both a survival tool and an art form. Trickster tales permeate Greek myths, where heroes and gods outsmart rivals, solve riddles, or escape peril through mental agility. Odysseus, famed for his guile, uses disguise, clever speech, and cunning plans to navigate trials during his long journey home. His encounter with the Cyclops Polyphemus, where he introduces himself as nobody, exemplifies strategic deception, turning danger into victory. The gods themselves sometimes resort to trickery. Prometheus's gift of fire to humanity was also an act of defiance, involving deception against Zeus. Pandora's jar, released by curiosity, unleashed troubles but also hope, illustrating complex moral lessons tied to cunning acts. Yet trickery often comes with consequences, reflecting ancient Greek values that balance intelligence with humility and justice. Tales warn against hubris and deceit that harm others, underscoring the ethical dimensions of cleverness. Through these narratives, Greek mythology celebrates the power of the mind, the importance of adaptability, and the nuanced dance between honesty and deception. They remind us that intelligence is a potent force, capable of shaping fate, overcoming obstacles, and revealing truths hidden beneath appearances. In the timeless interplay of strength and wit, Greek myths offer enduring lessons on the many faces of human ingenuity. In the vast panorama of Greek mythology, the theme of fate looms as a force more unyielding than even the gods themselves. The Moirae, or Fates, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, spun, measured, and cut the threads of life, determining the destiny of gods and mortals alike. Their presence reminded all that some things remain beyond control, no matter one's power or will. The ancient Greeks believed that no one, not even Zeus, could alter what the fates decreed. Their inexorable weaving symbolized life's fragile balance, where every moment was part of a larger cosmic design. This belief shaped not only mythology, but everyday attitudes toward destiny, choice, and responsibility. Heroes often struggled against their fated ends. Achilles knew his glory came at the cost of a brief life. Yet he accepted this, choosing eternal fame over longevity. Oedipus sought to escape the prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother, only to walk straight into its fulfillment. These tales poignantly explore the tension between free will and predestination. Fate was intertwined with divine justice, sometimes serving as punishment, other times as reward. The inevitability of destiny did not negate human action, but framed it within a mysterious order, emphasizing humility and acceptance. This tension echoes in rituals and daily life, where oracles and prophecies guided decisions, yet human courage and choice remained essential. The interplay of fate and agency invites reflection on the limits of control and the profound mystery of existence. Through the relentless march of the fates, Greek mythology confronts the ultimate question: to what extent can we shape our own story? This question resonates deeply, reminding us of the delicate dance between power and surrender, hope and inevitability. The myths encourage embracing life fully, aware of its fleeting nature and the grand design that binds us all. Among the most enchanting aspects of Greek mythology is the vivid portrayal of the gods' emotions. Not just their power, but their passions, rivalries, and vulnerabilities, making them deeply relatable despite their immortality. The gods experience love and jealousy, wrath and mercy, often acting out these intense feelings in ways that shape both divine and mortal worlds. Take Hera, queen of the gods, whose fierce protectiveness over her marriage to Zeus was matched only by her jealousy of his countless affairs. Her wrath often targeted Zeus's lovers and their children, leading to stories of punishment and hardship. Yet beneath this fierce exterior lay a goddess committed to family and order, embodying complex dimensions beyond simple anger. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, wielded desire as a powerful force, capable of both passion and chaos. Her affairs and interventions sparked wars and reconciliations alike. The story of her love for Ares, the god of war, reveals how attraction and conflict intertwine, weaving sensuality and violence into myth. Zeus himself was no stranger to emotion-driven decisions, His love affairs, jealousies, and occasional mercies shaped human fate dramatically. His thunderbolts could punish or protect, his moods often reflecting the unpredictable nature of life. These emotional dynamics among gods mirror human experiences, reminding us that even the divine is subject to the complexities of feeling. Their passions fueled myths rich in drama, intrigue, and lessons about love, power, and consequence. By portraying gods with such vivid emotions, Greek mythology bridges the divine and the mortal, making ancient stories resonate with the depths of human nature. In this, we find timeless reflections on the joys and pains that define existence, woven into tales that continue to captivate and teach. In the world of Greek mythology, the realm of festivals and celebrations was as vibrant and significant as the tales of gods and heroes themselves. These communal gatherings were more than mere entertainment. They were sacred rituals that forged bonds between mortals and the divine, infused daily life with meaning, and reinforced social order. One of the grandest festivals was the Panathenea, honoring Athena, the city goddess of Athens. Every year, citizens gathered for athletic contests, musical competitions, and grand processions. The highlight was the presentation of a richly embroidered robe, the peplos, to Athena's statue, a symbol of devotion and civic pride. The festival combined religious reverence with joyous celebration, reflecting the unity of the city and its people. The Dionysia celebrated Dionysus, god of wine, theater, and ecstasy. It was here that drama truly flourished, with playwrights like Aeschylus and Sophocles debuting their tragedies and comedies. Theater became a sacred art, exploring human nature, morality, and the divine through powerful storytelling. Revelers drank, danced, and surrendered to the ecstatic spirit of Dionysus, blurring the line between mortal and god. Smaller festivals, such as the Thesmophoria, celebrated fertility and agricultural cycles, honoring goddesses like Demeter and Persephone. Women played central roles in these rites, invoking blessings for the land and community. Feasting was integral. Simple foods like olives, bread, figs, and wine were shared, connecting participants to the earth's bounty and the gods' generosity. These festivals were living myths, reenacting stories and values that shaped Greek identity. They transformed mythic themes into communal experience, allowing mortals to touch the divine and celebrate the rhythms of life. Through music, dance, competition, and ritual, ancient Greeks affirmed their place in a cosmos where gods and humans danced in perpetual harmony and conflict. This vibrant cultural tapestry reveals how mythology was not just told but lived, through joyous gatherings that united body, mind, and spirit. In the complex world of Greek mythology, the delicate balance between order and chaos stands as a central theme, embodied through countless stories, where the forces of stability confront those of disruption, reflecting humanity's eternal struggle to impose meaning on an unpredictable world. The primordial gods themselves emerged from chaos, a yawning void representing nothingness and formlessness, highlighting that before creation there was disorder. From this abyss rose Gaia, Uranus, and other beings who began the process of shaping the cosmos, establishing order from the void. Yet, chaos remained a lurking force, often personified as antagonists or wild entities challenging the established divine hierarchy. Titans rebelled against the Olympian gods in a cosmic battle, symbolizing a clash between old and new orders. Within human realms, myths like those of the Erinyes illustrate the enforcement of moral order, relentlessly pursuing those who violate sacred laws, embodying vengeance as a corrective force. Conversely, stories of madness inflicted by gods, such as Dionysian frenzy or Hera's wrath, reveal chaos erupting within individuals and communities. This tension permeated ancient Greek life. Civic laws, rituals, and social customs sought to contain chaos, maintaining balance in both society and nature. Festivals celebrated renewal, and the cyclical restoration of order after chaos's threatening incursions. The gods themselves reflected this dynamic balance. Zeus wielded thunder to impose order, while Dionysus embodied the ecstatic chaos that temporarily dissolves boundaries. Greek mythology's rich tapestry reveals that chaos and order are not mere opposites, but interdependent forces, each defining and shaping the other. Through vivid stories, the myths explore how civilizations grapple with uncertainty, change, and the fragile structures that hold the world together. This enduring theme invites reflection on the constant human endeavor to find harmony amidst the unpredictable currents of existence. Among the many fascinating dimensions of Greek mythology lies the intricate relationship between mortals and the divine through acts of sacrifice. Sacrifice was not merely ritualistic, but a profound expression of respect, reciprocity, and connection, a bridge between human and God. In ancient Greece, sacrifice involved offering animals, food, or libations, symbolizing the giving of life back to the gods who sustain the world. These rituals varied from simple household offerings to grand public ceremonies, each layered with meaning and intention. Take the sacrifice of Iphigenia, daughter of Agamemnon, whose fate became a poignant myth illustrating the tension between personal loss and communal necessity. To appease Artemis and secure favorable winds for the Trojan expedition, Agamemnon faced the harrowing choice of sacrificing his child. Whether Iphigenia's story ends in death or divine rescue, it underscores the profound costs tied to divine favor. Sacrifices were also acts of gratitude and supplication. Festivals often culminated in shared feasts, where the community gathered to partake in the offering, reinforcing social bonds and collective identity. The nature of sacrifice reflected a worldview where humans acknowledged their dependence on forces greater than themselves. It was an act of humility and recognition, affirming the sacred order. Yet myths reveal complexities. Gods could be capricious, and sacrifices might not always guarantee favor, highlighting the unpredictable nature of divine-human relationships. The ritual of sacrifice also symbolized transformation. The offered life nourished the gods, while the community renewed itself through shared participation. Through these rites, Greek mythology captures the intricate dance of giving and receiving that sustains both mortal and divine realms. Sacrifice, in its many forms, remains a testament to humanity's enduring search for meaning, connection, and the sacred in everyday life. Greek mythology also explores the profound concept of the afterlife, weaving together visions of death, judgment, and what lies beyond mortal existence, reflecting ancient Greeks' hopes, fears, and beliefs about the soul's fate. The Underworld, ruled by Hades and his queen Persephone, was a shadowy realm beneath the earth, a place not of torment but of quiet, somber existence where souls dwelled after death. The river Styx, Lethe, Acheron, and others formed barriers and paths within this realm, each carrying symbolic meaning. For example, the river Lethe induced forgetfulness, allowing souls to cleanse their memories before reincarnation in some beliefs. Though often depicted as gloomy, the underworld was not uniform. Elysium represented a paradisiacal section reserved for heroes and the virtuous, a reward for excellence and favor. In contrast, Tartarus was a deep abyss of punishment for the wicked titans and those who defied the gods. Myths recount heroic journeys to the underworld. Odysseus seeking prophecy, Orpheus attempting to reclaim his beloved Eurydice, symbolizing a profound confrontation with mortality and the desire to transcend death. Funerary practices in ancient Greece, including offerings and rituals, reflected a desire to honor the dead and ensure their peaceful passage. Neglecting proper rites risked the restless spirits or revenants. The mythology surrounding death conveys complex attitudes: acceptance of death's inevitability, hope for transcendence, and the enduring bond between the living and the dead. This vision of the afterlife underscores a worldview where life and death are parts of a continuum, governed by divine order and moral consequence. Through these narratives, Greek mythology offers insight into humanity's eternal quest to understand what follows the final breath, a journey as mysterious and compelling as life itself. As our journey through the vast and intricate world of Greek mythology draws to a close, it is fitting to reflect on the enduring legacy these ancient stories have bestowed upon humanity. Stories not frozen in time, but alive, vibrant, and endlessly resonant. Greek mythology is more than a collection of gods, heroes, and fantastical tales. It is a profound exploration of what it means to be human, our hopes, fears, virtues, and flaws laid bare against the backdrop of a universe where mortals and immortals intertwine. These myths grapple with the mysteries of existence, the creation of the world from chaos, the delicate dance between fate and free will, the power of love and jealousy, the pain of loss, and the hope of renewal. They reveal a cosmos teeming with life, passion, and conflict, where divine forces mirror the complexities of human nature. The gods themselves, with their triumphs and failings, reflect a mirror held up to humanity. A reminder that power and vulnerability coexist, and that wisdom often arises from struggle. Heroes traverse perilous quests not only to prove their strength, but to understand themselves and their place in the world. Mortals face the divine with courage and humility, negotiating their destinies amid forces far greater than themselves. Greek mythology's rich tapestry influenced countless generations, shaping art, literature, philosophy, and culture far beyond the ancient world. Its echoes reverberate in modern storytelling, reminding us that these tales still speak to the universal human experience. Perhaps most profoundly, these myths invite us to embrace life's uncertainties, to find meaning in our journey despite the inevitability of fate, and to celebrate the enduring spirit that defines us all. As you lay down now, let these stories lull you, not just as distant legends, but as living voices from the past that continue to inspire wonder, reflection, and connection. May the gods watch over your dreams, and may you carry forward the timeless wisdom of myths into your waking life. Thank you for joining this voyage through the realms of Greek mythology. Until next time, may your path be blessed and your heart ever curious.